Hey, everybody. Welcome to the second exclusive episode of Off Timin. I'm here with Matt. We're here today to talk about one of our favorite artists, and unfortunately, not one of Jake's favorite artists, David Bowie. Compared to our Blur episode, we are going to be doing an actual album ranking. We cut out Pinups, Labyrinth, and what was the other one? I think
We're
we cut
not
out
cheating.
Tin Machine. Kind of just the core Bowie albums. Not that Pinups isn't great. I enjoy it personally, but it's really hard, similar to like Beach Boys' Christmas album, to rank in you know, this kind of discography where you have like artistic statements compared to covers collection. But yeah, we're gonna be talking about David Bowie today. So Matt, how did you get into David Bowie?
So I would say that the first time I'd heard a Bowie song, and I'm just going to put this away. This is my Bowie poster.
Behind
Shout
you,
out to
man.
Park Avenue CDs in Orlando, Florida. That's where I got it from. You guys are awesome. I would say I first got into Bowie. So I think the first time I'd heard a Bowie song was Shrek 2, Changes. First Bowie song I ever heard. And then I'd heard a couple songs in popular culture. Like I know I heard Starman. I think I heard that one on the Martian. I would say I really started getting into Bowie maybe around 2018. Once I got Apple Music for the first time, I just kind of like I knew Starman, so I kind of did that, and I knew Changes, but then I really started to deep dive into some of the stuff, and then I just kind of fell down that rabbit hole, and quickly became one of my favorite artists. I think also because I was already kind of a pretty big fan of Prince, and I see a lot of similarities between Prince and Bowie, so I think that definitely helped me really get into Bowie. I would say Bowie was a little bit more, not that Prince wasn't experimental, but I would say Bowie was a bit more experimental with Prince because Bowie like was always changing styles, always, constantly, even until he died. Like even his last record, he was still trying something new. Whereas like Prince did that for a while, but then eventually Prince kind of settled into like that kind of R&B soul rock thing that he kind of stayed with for the rest of his life. So just kind of like that.
I got into Bowie. I was working at summer camp for the first time, and I had like this 2 week break in between because I wasn't working that session, and my parents were away on vacation. And of course, at that point in time, I loved Starman and I loved Space Oddity, but I couldn't tell you any other Bowie songs.
Hmm.
Maybe China Girl because I mean that one I also knew from like pop culture, but the only ones I really listened to consistently were Starman and Space Oddity. And then for whatever reason on my YouTube feed popped up like a David Bowie album. I think it was done by Mick the Snare. He does a lot of great videos on like discography deep dives. And I watched it and I was just instantly like obsessed. I started listening to every album he did, even the not so great ones, but the ones that stuck with me really stuck with me. And it was truly look, throughout those 2 weeks, honestly, between camp, I went from nothing, and then after that 2 weeks, obsessed, so much obsessed that when camp got over and I hung out with my friends from camp, I got a stick and poke tattoo. Can't really see it.
Oh, like the Aladdin Sane Lightning Bolt.
Of the Aladdin Sane logo. That's how obsessed I was. It clicked immediately. And pretty much for the next like 3 months, it was the only things I were listening to were the Beach Boys and David Bowie. Um, since I kind of listened after the obsession kind of waned, I kind of honestly burnt out. But since then, I started re-listening to them again. It's kind of the same where I was. I can put on my Bowie playlist, go on shuffle, and I can listen to a song from Lodger and then immediately a song from Let's Dance. Yeah, but still one of my favorite artists of all time, and one of the most influential artists for me personally as a musician, because you can draw from so many things that he's done.
Oh
One of
yeah.
the most creative artists I've ever listened to.
Yeah, and I think what's really cool about Bowie was now he changed his obviously he changed the style a lot, but he never lost his substance. Those amazing lyrics, like such poetic, intelligent lyrics from him. Like you could tell. I think there was a saying that he like read a book a day. I mean, I don't know if that's true, but you could tell that he was extremely
Like
well.
cocaine every day though.
I know he did cocaine a lot, but you could tell like he was extremely well read, extremely articulate, and that's one thing I admire so much in David Bowie. That sometimes I can find it hard to listen to some artists like if like they don't quite have not like saying I not saying like I'm like lyrics are make or break for me, but when you have a song that has such great lyrics, it's just like that icing on the cake. You know what I mean?
For me, something that makes an artist truly incredible and what makes them a personal favorite, not necessarily a personal favorite of mine, but I've noticed a pattern in my favorite artists, even with bands like the Stone Roses, who have released 2 albums, are artists that constantly strive to move in different directions. And I kind of subconsciously knew that, but it wasn't made as apparent as it was until I got into David Bowie.
Hmm.
The Beatles, they shifted styles, but they weren't, forgive me, Beatles fans, they weren't like going from one direction completely backwards around and underneath like Bowie. Bowie went from glam straight into something electronic, and it was like to call it a 180 would be an understatement. The
You're forgetting.
Beatles, you kind of see it transitionally and you kind of notice it slowly. Bowie, it was all right. I'm kind of bored of this glam shit. Let's do something else. Let's do some Philly soul.
Yep.
I'm bored of Philly soul. Let's do some electronic synth pop. I'm bored of that. Let's just do some straightforward pop. I'm bored of that. Let's do industrial rock. I can't say the same about the Beatles, but I mean, again, it kind of shows that like some of the best artists of all time are the best because they will change and still stay good.
Hmm.
And for
Hmm.
my Stone Roses comment, there was a clear shift from Manchester to their blues-driven rock of the second album. Just in case people are like, no, they sound the same. They don't. But I had to get that out of there. You want to get into this ranking? So we're doing bottom five. So number 25 through 21.
I'll go first. So for me, number 25, Never Let Me Down. I don't think it's an awful listen like some of the critics make out to be, but it's just kind of boring for me. And I think the production, it's a lot of the songs are too long, and I think the production kind of drags it down. Then we have Tonight at 24, kind of for the same reasons, but there are a few more songs on there that stick out for me in a positive way. Then we have David Bowie 67, also known as the Darum album. Kind of interesting because it's probably the most like it's very music hall-y and it's like kind of the most Anthony Newley of Bowie stuff. But there's only a few songs I return to often, and again, it's just kind of it's a little twee for my taste. But again, it's a cool experiment. The Buddha of Suburbia, which has a lot of, in my opinion, like pleasing music, but nothing I really come back to too much. And then Hours. Honestly, with Hours, I just thought it was kind of bland. There were a couple songs that stuck out, but just a little on the bland side for me.
For me, I gotta say our lists are pretty similar. Number 25, I've Never Let Me Down. Same thing as Matt. It's not bad, but it's really inoffensive music. I think Zeros is the highlight for me, but even then, I can't say I listened to that one much. I think I've listened to that song maybe three or four times and just never again. Uh, and for me, for a Bowie album to be at the very least good, it has to be entertaining. And I was just more bored, and I get more entertainment value out of something. We'll get to that album when I mention it in a couple of seconds. Number 24 is Buddha of Suburbia. Similar thoughts. I guess it's a little less boring, more so as it's just uninteresting. Like I could see why people might like this one. Strangers When We Meet on this one is the highlight. It has that. I do like that one. That's on my Bowie playlist. But other than that, there's just nothing that is more memorable. I don't think it's as boring as Never Let Me Down, but it's not as memorable as anything else ahead of it. Speaking of memorable, I have Bowie 67. Um, I think this one is very entertaining.
It is.
So I'll give it that, just in the wrong way for me. Uh, it's like Sid Barrett's Pink Floyd, but on cocaine.
Yeah.
Uh, Pun absolutely intended. Because Sid Barrett's Pink Floyd, I could still get a musical jazzy element from songs like The Scarecrow or Bike. This is just like music hall-y to be music hall-y. Like that was the point. And I'm glad he changed up the direction on it. So entertaining, but in the wrong way. But it is entertaining, and I kind of get the same entertainment from it as I do from Summer in Paradise, where like I'll be laughing while listening to it. I'm like, what the fuck am I listening to?
But you like it better than McCartney's music hall stuff. Maybe kind of sort of.
Depends on the song.
I will say the two that I come back to the most on here are Rubber Band and Love You Till Tuesday. I think those are probably my two
Love
favorites.
You Till Tuesday. I'm pretty sure I would probably say that's the most standard song on this compared to like
Please, Mr. Gravedigger and We Are
like
Mountain Men and stuff like that. Yeah.
I do one thing you do notice with this one. I appreciate you already kind of noticed the non-standard songwriting from
Hmm.
him.
For sure.
So I you can see like the elements of him as a songwriter. It's just like not it's oh my God. Number 22, I have number one Outside, the Nathan Adler Diaries. This one has its fans. They are die-hard fans of this one. I am not one of those fans. I would say it's just it's too long. I feel like that's my biggest gripe with it. I do appreciate the segues. I'm glad that he's moving out of this pop thing because I mean even though he moved out of the pop with Black Tie White Noise, you're still somewhat poppy with that, even if it is influenced by other things. This one, he was going for something different. I know there's a story of he would give like some of like the actors or whatever, like people working on the album, like quotes or something, like a story, and so they can get into the mindset of it. So this is honestly more of a film rather
Yeah.
than an album. I appreciate the music, but it's just there's nothing that I really come back to. I'm pretty sure Strangers When We Meet's also on this one. I would probably have to re-listen to this album a couple more times to really, really appreciate it. I like Hollow Space Boy or Hello Space Boy or whatever.
I'm deranged. I like to.
But even then, I can't say I listened to come back to it. And I guess the number one thing for me of an album, more than songwriting, more than production, more than melody is do I return to it a lot? And this one is one I don't think I could honestly go without listening to it again. I want to like this, but I can't. It's a bit hard. And then number 21 is Earthling. I think from here on, you have a massive step up in quality for me in terms of like how much I really like it. I could see myself liking this one. I just need to listen to it a little bit more. There's nothing immediately grabbing onto it. Like nothing I immediately grab onto except for two songs. Dead Man Walking, I really like it. I feel like it's more of a melodic piece. And I do like the production on it. Um, and I'm Afraid of Americans, the single. I'm pretty sure he was going with like a Nine Inch Nails kind of approach to this album.
Yeah, he
And
was.
I am not a big Nine Inch Nails fan. But I do like the industrial sounds. I do think even though it's not for me, it does fit Bowie. And if somebody ranked this album much higher, I could completely understand why. This kind of music's just not for me, but I do like those two songs that I mentioned, and I could see it growing on me. And then after this one, there is another noticeable step up in quality for the next couple.
So number 20 for me is Outside, as you mentioned. I like it, I think, a bit more than you do. Honestly, if I'm being totally honest, if it was a bit shorter, it'd be a lot higher than me. I love that ambient stuff he was going for. It's just too long. It's just too long. But definitely like the songs you mentioned, I really like, and definitely I want to give it some more listens. Next at 19 is Bowie 69, aka Space Oddity. It's grown a lot on me, Riley. I know you make that face, but I still think like for me, it's kind of like a half and halfer. Like there are songs I love, and like obviously Title Track's great. I really like Letter to Hermione. I really like Janine, and then Wild Eyed Boy from Free Cloud. But like a lot of other, it's just kind of whatever to me. Like Signet Committee, I appreciate what he's going for. Too long for me and doesn't really go anywhere. I'm watching Somewhat Slight Days. Kind of appreciate what he's going for. Also a bit too long. So like, I think this one will probably grow with more repeated listens because it was one that I maybe listened to like a couple of times, then kind of never listened to again, then picked it up again. So it's definitely grown on me a little bit, but it's still just like I said, it's just a little too half baked for me. 18 Black Tie White Noise. Really, really love like the acid kind of house thing he's going for on here. Really love the vibes on it. Really enjoyable record for me. And then Earthling, I like it a lot more than you do. I actually love that industrial sound. I love how like punchy it is, how aggressive it is. Love I'm Afraid of Americans. Love Looking for Satellites, like Little Wonder. I mean, honestly, yeah, I really, really enjoy this record. And then Reality, definitely a very good record. A great later day record for him. Lots of good songs on there. Definitely have to listen to it a few more times, but from the few time, a couple times I did listen to it, I really, really, I like it a lot. But I like some of the late, I like his stuff that came after it more.
Number 20, I have Hours. I do like this one quite a bit, but mostly as a whole rather than like standout songs. That being said, I like Thursday's Child and I like Seven. I think those are two of like my favorites. But other than that, it's pretty consistent quality. It's just compared to those two tracks, there's nothing that really grabs me. And I feel like you need at least three or four tracks spread throughout the album to keep me really interested. Um, at least with like these kind of little albums. I think the pacing was a bit meh. I feel like that may have fixed things for me. I do like it though. If I had to like rank it, I'd probably give it like a solid 6.5 out of 10.
Hmm.
After Hours, I have Reality.
Hmm.
That cover is god fucking awful.
It is bad.
But I do think this is like similar to Hours, but like a step up in quality.
Hmm.
Um,
A lot better than Hours for
a
me.
lot, yeah. I
For me, a
love
lot.
New Color Star. I love Bring Me the Disco King. I think it's a great album. It's like if ours was a bit more consistent and like a bit higher quality, I'd really like, and I like the sound of it. I think it just sounds great. I think this is a great new direction for Bowie. Unfortunately, he would take a break from music after making this album.
Yes, he took the 10-year gap after this because he had the massive heart attack.
Part of me is curious where he would have went if he continued without the heart attack, but I also don't think we would have gotten two of the other albums that we would have gotten. So,
Mhm.
after Reality, I have Tonight, Blue Jean, and Loving the Alien absolutely steal the show. Two incredible songs. Um, Probably two of the best songs that I've mentioned so far in the entire, I guess, ranking. Like
Hmm.
they are high quality pop songs. I just wish the rest of the album was a bit up there with quality. Um, that being said, I do think it's actually pretty good. It's just it didn't quite mm, live up to the expectations that Let's Dance kind of set. Because like I feel like Let's Dance was easy for Bowie, and I feel like he's like kind of stuck with the formula. I do love Blue Jean though. I love Loving the Alien. I do think this is a pretty consistent record. It's just I feel like it could have went better if instead of riding on the train of success he got with Let's Dance, he took a bit more time with this one. Instead, I
Hmm.
feel like he kind of rushed this. Um, and then I have Black Tie, White Noise. You are absolutely right. I love the acid house influence because I feel that was huge in England around the time with the Manchester scene. So
Hmm.
I'm a big Manchester fan, so I do appreciate that. I also love that it's kind of like Manchester, but like instead of incorporating like guitar pop and 60s melodies, he incorporates like jazz and R&B, which is a really interesting direction for it. That being said, I feel like the quality could have been a little bit better. I
Yeah, it's a little.
really like Jump They Say, and I love the title track. Um, I feel like it could have been a little bit better, but he's also kind of branching out now from the pop scene with Never Let Me Down. He's finally switching directions. So this is a new direction for Bowie, and even though in the past he's able to change direction really fast, I feel like this time he's kind of gotten a bit older and it's a bit hard for him to easily just snap into something new.
He also had just gotten married too, so that's probably why.
Right. So I mean, again, like there's outside factors, but I do think it's really good. So number 16, I have Heathen. This is an incredibly depressing record, but I think it's very high quality. And this is one of those albums that really shocked me when I first listened to it because it's just holy shit. The songwriting on here, it's just strong songwriting. Slip Away, Slow Burn, two
Mhm.
incredible tracks.
Yep.
Very consistent. I've seen this one rank pretty highly on some people's lists. Personally, I think he could have included a couple more happier songs,
Yeah.
but I also heard that this one was influenced a little bit by 9/11 though. So like
Yeah, I've heard that too. And also, it was the first album he made with Tony Visconti in over 20 years because they had a big falling out when he recorded Let's Dance because he decided to go with Nile Rodgers because he wanted something a bit more commercial.
right. But I think Heathen's high quality record. Definitely listen to Slow Burn and definitely listen to Slip Away. Those two are incredible songs, two of the best in his discography.
I agree.
But I honestly don't think there's a bad song on Heathen.
No.
Um, no. Great Bowie record. But then I would say the next 15 are like either seven and I would because I would rank like Heathen like a six three quarters, 7 out of 10. These next ones are pretty much just all like 8 out of 10s for me or higher.
Yeah. So 15 for me, I have Heathen. Kind of for the same reasons you mentioned, Riley. It is kind of a dark album, but it is a really cohesive record. It's got a lot of really good songs on it. I like that he kind of returned with Tony Visconti. You could tell definitely he was like kind of going into, like you said, it's definitely depressing, but I really, really enjoy what he's going for. Other than the songs you mentioned, I really liked Everybody Says Hi. That's a good one too. And yeah, so that's I definitely need to listen to it a few more times because it is still kind of new for me. But I really, really did enjoy it when I listened to it. So that's my number 15.
Yeah. My number 15, I'm gonna get absolutely crucified for this one, is Black Star. Um, Maybe not for the reasons you would think, because I think the reason why I don't like this record are the reasons why people do. I feel like this one is highly praised simply because Bowie died pretty much right after releasing, or right before releasing. I forgot which one it was. And I feel like it's kind of gets that special treatment. That being said, it's a fantastic record.
It,
It's arguably one of his more experimental records, especially for like a modern album. This one came out less than 10 years ago. Uh, and I love the jazz influence on it. I feel like some of it's like dissonant, but yet melodic, if that makes any sense. I
Oh, that
mean,
makes
first,
perfect
those
sense.
two terms are like headbutting. So like in music theory, that is just like doesn't make sense. But for me, it does. That's the best way I can describe it. I really like the sound on it. I think sonically it's incredible. And even though he was obviously dying, he had not yet lost his voice.
Nope.
Incredible. I mean, Lazarus and I Can't Give Everything Away are two great songs. The title track's incredible. There's not a bad song on here. It kind of has that similar feeling I have towards That's Why God Made the Radio by the Beach Boys, where I kind of find it to be a sad record because you know both are going to be their last. So it's honestly a bit hard for me to listen to this one compared to like some of his other stuff. But it is great. But the one thing that it doesn't have for me is I don't listen to it much. I don't return to this one much, and that's like I said, one of the most important things for me with an album. But I think it's great. I love the jazz influence. I love the R&B influence. I think it sounds incredible. Sonically, it's great. Just don't return to it too much. And I got to be honest with myself. This is probably like one of my least listened to David Bowie albums.
It's definitely a heavy listen, and I agree with that. But for me, and we'll get to it when I get to it. I just think like it's so brilliantly written. I love that he's experimenting with the jazz rock stuff. There's also like some hip hop influence you can hear on that record. Yeah, it's such a great
Just
record,
the lyrics on that album, though,
incredible. And,
incredible.
and I would say one advantage it has over That's Why I Got Me the Radio. It isn't slathered in autotune because that, to be honest with you, I think that kind of makes that record almost unlistenable to me. How much autotune they slathered on it.
Yeah. Number 14 for you, Matt.
I'm gonna get crucified for this. Diamond Dogs. I do like this record, and it's been growing on me a lot. But I just didn't return. I don't return to it as much as a lot of other records. I think because my problem I kind of have with Diamond Dogs is I think it kind of works better as a cohesive unit rather than like breaking up into songs. Like there are some great songs on it. Like obviously there's Rebel Rebel,
Oh, Diamond Dogs title track.
Diamond Dogs, the title track.
Sweet Thing, not Sweet
Sweet
Thing.
Thing is
Yeah,
great.
Sweet
Later
Thing.
is great. Rock and Roll with Me. Like there's some good songs on it, but I just think I don't return to it as much. Maybe because like I think the first time I listened to it, I was kind of really turned off by it. So I kind of like stayed away from it for a bit. But I'm starting to listen to it more and more, and I definitely think it's going to raise higher on my list. I just think it's because I don't come back to it as much, and I think just because like for me the glam stuff was a little played out by then. I think like for me like he kind of did so good with Ziggy Stardust and Aladdin Sane. I was kind of ready for something else, which is why I think I love the follow up so much more. Like I will die on the hill that I think Young Americans is a better album than Diamond Dogs. And I know a lot of people disagree with that, but I'll die on that hill. But I do see this one rising in ranking the more I'll listen to it. Just because, like I said, I don't listen to it as much as I probably should. But I do appreciate what he was going for. I like that it has like that 1984 influence, and it's definitely growing on me a lot. Like honestly, like before this would probably been ranked quite a bit lower, but it's been growing on me.
Yeah, I think your ranking is like actually a bit more in line with than you think. Um,
Well, I know some people like love that record and like will.
oh yeah, it has its fans. It definitely has its
Among
fans.
critics, though, you're right. I think this is about where it would be ranked.
All right, my next one is hold on.
Lodger.
It's Lodger. Um, that being said, I still love this thing. I would probably give this like an 8 out of 10. Um, However, do have some gripes with it. I think the songwriting is very hit or miss for me on this one. The ones I don't like, I never listen to again. The ones I do like, though, I listen to a lot.
What are the ones?
DJ, Look Back in Anger, Boys Keep Swimming, not swimming, Swinging, Red Money, Fantastic Voyage, incredible songs. I can't say I listen to African Night Flight, though,
I
or
love
Move.
that song. I love that song.
Like I said, dude, it's super hit or miss for me.
I love it,
Um,
man.
you hear a lot of talking heads on this record, and I feel like that's also part of the reason why he moved away from this sound is because the new wave era was coming and he was super influential on it, but he didn't think that he could stick with it. So this was kind of like an easy make for him. He just made it and he kind of switched up. He's falling out of the Berlin sound though. I think he knew that his time up was up with that one with like that particular like style. I mean, he was also kind of got his life back on track though at this point, and I feel like this was more of just like he kind of knew when making it that this wouldn't be as great as some of his other stuff. So I feel like he kind of not that he didn't just put it together, but you kind of get what I mean. Like, anyways, like I said, I love the songs on here. I think Look Back in Anger is an incredible vocal delivery from him. I love the electronic like dance style to DJ. I
You,
am the DJ.
I
Like
am what I play.
I
And
love that one. Boys keep swinging. I know this is kind of like a bit of a sexual song, and maybe I don't fall in line with that kind of style, but man, I fucking love that song, dude. It just it rips.
love what he was doing on that song too, because he had them switch instruments, which I thought was really cool. That's what gives it kind of its distinct sound. You know what's funny? The one song you really like is actually the only song I don't really care for. I look
Which
back and
one's that?
I don't really care for that song that much. But you know what song I do love that you didn't mention? I know it's very dark, but I love it because it's so dark. Repetition. Probably arguably one of the darkest songs he ever wrote. But that's probably why I like it so much.
I've the thing with this one is this one has its fans. I mean, every Bowie album has its fans, but like if there are this particular album too, compared to the others, people will die on the hill that Lodger is the best album in the Berlin trilogy.
I wouldn't go that far,
I mean,
but
I wouldn't. Obviously,
I love it,
obviously,
but I wouldn't go that far. It's definitely
right.
the weakest of the three, but I still really enjoy it.
But yeah, I love it. I think it's honestly him moving a bit more in the poppy direction because he doesn't have any instrumentals on here, as far as I remember.
Nope.
Matt, you could probably correct me on
Nope,
that.
no instrumentals on Lodger. It's all vocals. I would say Lodger is actually, if you go on Heroes, the secret world, the secret life of Arabia that ends Heroes, that is kind of like almost a taste of what Lodger is going to be, I would say.
But I love it. I do love the album. There's just some songs I just don't return to. But that being said, I mean, if you listen to it as a whole, as disjointed as all like the musical styles are, it's honestly pretty cohesive. Like even though some songs don't work for me, I can listen to this beginning to end.
I would say too, some people have argued that Lodger is kind of a concept album because like side one is all about like travel, kind of, you know,
Yeah, I've heard that. I don't agree with it, but I've heard it. Yeah.
a lot of world music you can hear in this album too, which is kind of cool. So number 13 for me is Let's Dance. Great pop record. Absolutely some of the greatest, some great pop songs from Bowie. Modern Love, China Girl, Let's Dance. Love all of those. Without You is great. Ricochet, all the songs are great. I think the reason why it ranks a little bit lower for me than you might have it, Reilly, is I think it's a great pop record. All the songs are really good. He sings great on it. Production is great. Kind of, I think it's like I think you mentioned earlier, it's a little easy for Bowie. So it was a little safe. That's probably why I rank it a little bit lower because it is compared to a lot of his other records a lot more accessible and safe. Still a great record, of course. And I would also say too, kind of what came after it. I maybe that's me being a little hard on it, but kind of like what it led to, I think is unfortunate because it led to, in my opinion, two of his weakest albums. And I think Bowie himself kind of looked at Let's Dance later on in a bit of a mixed light. I know he later referred to the 80s as his Phil Collins years. I'm sure you've heard that quote before. But as it stands, it's a great pop record. Not a bad cut on there. I just wish it was a little bit more experimental. But I do think for a pop record, it is kind of experimental. A song like China Girl is about racism, and the video kind of deals with racism. Even the video for Let's Dance deals with racism. I can see why those got a lot of play on MTV. So that's where I'm at with Let's Dance. That's my number 13.
Yeah, I like Bowie for his songwriting, honestly, more than anything. And I feel like it just happens so that some of his best songwriting came with some of his most experimental sounds.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, number 13, I have The Man Who Sold the World. I would argue that Lodger is the more consistent record, um, but the highs on this one are incredibly high. Width of the Circle, the Superman, um, and then obviously the big one, The Man Who Sold the World. I think this is the better version. And that's not me be like hating on Nirvana. I just think Bowie's voice sounds a lot better on this one. But that's just personal taste. If somebody told me they liked the Nirvana version better, I wouldn't care. What would make me care is if they thought that Nirvana wrote it. That's
That
what would make me care.
that came up a lot. Apparently, Bowie said that they used to say like, "Oh, we love your like." They thought Nirvana wrote the song, but I love his vocal effects on that song. I don't know what Tony Visconti did with the vocals, but it sounds amazing. Like it kind of has that. It's a very haunting song, and his voice sounds so detached on the song. I just love it. It's a very like cool.
The production fits so well with the songwriting on here. And Bowie hadn't quite found his sound yet. This is kind of him almost being like Black Sabbathy.
Yeah, very hard rock.
Spots. Um, so I do really like this one. It's just some of the lows on here aren't necessarily like bad. They're just more so a little boring for me. I kind of get lost listening to some of them. But it is a great record. I would argue you could argue it's Bowie's first great one. I don't think so,
Yeah,
but excuse me.
Paul's just a little short.
Very alone in my thoughts on what his first great record is. So
Yeah, I know you probably are. But yeah, I would say with yeah, actually, fun enough, my number 12 is also Man Who Sold the World. So continuing on what you said, I agree the highs are really, really great. Other than Width of the Circle and Man Who Sold the World, I'm not huge on Superman. That's one of the ones I don't really care for that much. I would say Superman and Save Your Machine and She Shook Me Cold have never done much for me. After All, I think is a great song with like that I think it's like the Moog synthesizer in the breakdown there. All the Madmen love that song. I think that one was an homage to his brother, his half brother that had schizophrenia. Um, I really like I like Running Gun Blues, but I can see why some people may hate that song because it is rather racist. But I see it as like Bowie kind of playing a role. Like he's supposed to be a Vietnam War vet that's traumatized and has PTSD, and that's why he's saying, like I smash the gooks, I break them heads. But I can see why some people may not care for that song. Another one I love is the very Mark Bolini T-Rexy Black Country Rock. Does not have that many lyrics, but my God, that freaking riff. That riff is other freaking worldly. That's Mick Ronson plays it? This was the first one with Mick
I think
Ronson.
that yeah, Mick Ronson I think was part of the band at this point. They weren't quite the Spiders, but he was with Bowie.
That riff is incredible. That riff is absolutely incredible, and the riff makes the song because there's not really too many lyrics to it. I mean, it's mainly just pack horse up and rest up here on Black Country Rock. Like it's like the same thing over and over, but that riff, man, just freaking sells it. And I love when he sings it in like that Mark Bolan impression at the end of the song. So I kind of agree with you. Like the highs on here are amazing. The lows I wouldn't say are awful, but yeah, I just don't really come back to them. But I think the highs,
Exactly, that's my point.
yeah, the highs come back. The highs just make it for me. So that's my number 12, man. So
Guitar playing on that record. Oh my God, the guitar
it's
playing on that
incredible.
record is incredible.
I feel like Bowie never really had a guitar player as good as Mick Ronson ever again.
We'll get to it when we talk about said album. But there is a live performance of one of my favorite Bowie songs where Mick Ronson is fucking shredding.
Stevie Ray Vaughan was pretty good on Let's Dance, though.
Yeah, and except Bowie pretended to play the riff in the music video on that.
I mean, Bowie wasn't.
He was good at guitar.
He was. He did the riff on
He did all
Rebel.
the guitar on Diamond Dogs.
Yeah, he did. And Diamond Dogs is that's one thing I do appreciate about Diamond Dogs is that he is the only album of his that he produced all by himself, and I think he did a pretty good job with it. I just wish I liked some of the songs a bit more.
Yeah. All right. Number 12, I have The Next Day. This is an incredible comeback album. I feel like similar to the George Harrison with either Cloud Nine or I guess All Things Must Pass, Bowie had some of these songs just in the vault waiting. Because I don't think he ever stopped writing music. I mean, I could be wrong. But he takes me as the kind of guy that even when he's done recording, he still would keep writing. But it's honestly it's just an alternative rock album. That's exactly what it is. And even though it came out in 2013, it doesn't have that 2013 production. It is slick. It is sonically pleasing. The songwriting is like in tip-top shape. Valentine's Day is honestly potentially in my top 10 favorite Bowie songs.
Great song.
The Stars Are Out Tonight is incredible. Hold on, I don't have it written down. Where Are We Now is great.
Good song.
And the lows on here are like not even like forgettable. I still remember them like pretty well. I mean, there's a couple I could probably go without, but like incredibly consistent record. It's sonically pleasing. I think Bowie works great with the alternative rock sound. I love the cover and I love this album. I just think the one thing holding it back, honestly, is just like it's just not as great as his other stuff. But if I were to rank like comeback albums, this would either be at number one or number two.
Yeah, no, it's a great album. I'll be talking about it a little bit, but pretty much what you said. Exactly what you said. So my number 11 is Lodger. I think I like it a bit more than you do. I definitely agree it's the weakest of the Berlin trilogy, but that's just because the other two are so good. It is still an incredibly great record. Almost every song I love on here. The only one I don't hate it, but Don't Look Back in Anger is probably for me like my least favorite, but I still enjoy it for what it is. Fantastic Voyage is great. I quite love African Night Flight. I love how raucous it is. And he's almost like rapping on the song. Like I try to learn the lyrics myself and I get like exhausted. I just know, wonder how dollar went down, gotta get a word to Alyssa's father. Hey, no, you wish me well. Love it. I love The Assassin. I'm not a moody guy. Red Sail, where it's like it's a far, 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 far away. I just love the record. Boys Keep Swinging, like you said, is amazing. Repetition, probably one of the darkest songs he ever wrote. So I not one I would put on all the time, but in the context of the record, it's great. But yeah, I just love how there's a bunch of discordant sounds on it, but it still kind of comes together. I love the new, like kind of the new wavy influences or the new wave sound in there. You also have a bit of like the world music that's kind of cool in there. You can definitely hear that. I think more on like things like Assassin and African Night Flight and Fantastic Voyage. I just think it's a really great record. The only reason it ranks kind of low for me, just because of how good everything else is.
That's what when you get to like discographies like this, it's like here's my number 14 album, but it's like still like a 10 out of 10 album. It's just they have so much. It's like the same thing with the Beach Boys because I'm a big fan of like LA and shit, I can't think of my Beach Boys list, but like Little Deuce Coupe, those albums, they're like great albums for me. I love listening to them, and they're like one of the ones I return to a lot. But then you have like I don't know, like other albums that are just way better, like Holland and Pet Sounds and Today. So
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like LA is an overhated album, to be honest with you. I think that one disco song on there just like makes people hate it so much.
that one disco song is like 10 minutes, so it's at least like 1/8 of the
And
record.
it's like a quarter of the record, but like I mean, so much good stuff on there. And the only other thing that I kind of get annoyed with that album is Sumahama, not the song itself, just the stupid Japanese
The
part.
second half of it.
Second half of it. The first half of it, wonderful.
It is like 5 minutes, dude. It's like 2.5 minutes of it is just like good song.
Yeah, no. Like I said, yeah, just tighten it up. Okay.
All right. Number 11, I have another ranking that might get me crucified. There's a 50-50 chance that people would find me and hang me up on a cross. It's Heroes. For me, I love all of it. I love obviously the title track is one of the greatest songs of all time, period. I also like Joe the Lion, I like Beauty and the Beast, and I love Son of the Silent Age. And the instrumentals on here, I like the instrumentals on here better than the instrumentals of Low. It's
Wow.
just except for Warsaw. But Warsaw was like that's like great instrumental. But one thing holding me back compared to the other ones is just like I feel like the songwriting on the next 10 albums are just stronger.
Yeah.
Um I if I was to pit this against Low, I would probably put like the I guess like the singing songs on Low better than the singing songs on this one. Um and I guess this kind of is how I weigh it is like I like the singing songs a bit more than instrumentals, so I'm gonna rank Low a bit higher. They are very close, and so are the next couple of albums. So like this could easily go up to like number 8 or 7. It's just right now it's at 11. Yeah. I love the sounds of it though. I feel like on this one he kind of he gets the Berlin trilogy sound with this one. I feel like this is sonically a bit more pleasing than Low because I feel like with Low he's still figuring things out. This one the production is slick. He's figured things out. He has the sound down to a T. And obviously the title track is just one of the greatest songs of all time. I really like the chorus on Beauty and the hooks on Beauty and the Beast. He's like the beauty of the beast is and I love the instrumentals on here, and especially they work really well together. Which I don't know if I can say the same about Low, because I mean they work well together, but not as well as they work here.
Yeah.
Uh, like I really love Moss Garden. That one's just
Beautiful song. Beautiful
beautiful, and
song.
they're all beautiful. B2 Schneider is
Very cool.
very cool track. It's like kind of groovy. I love it. Secret Life of Arabia, a little displaced, but it fits. I
Yeah.
think it fits.
Yeah.
Whereas you don't really expect it when you go through like the first like 3/4 of that side, and then oh, okay,
I think like I said, I think I mentioned earlier, like if you see it as a preview of Lodger, it makes sense. But yeah, if you're listening to what's that Nucklin or however you pronounce that one with the sax blaring,
New Clan, I think.
Nuclon, which I love that song too. Yeah, it kind of like because that song is so dour and like ambient, and then all of a sudden you get this, which is like the exact opposite. But like I read it somewhere that I think I read on Reddit where someone's like, think of it as like a preview for Lodger.
Yeah,
Like,
it fits more in his discog. It fits its place on the album fits more in the sense of his discography. If you listen to it as a trilogy, but like in the album, it kind of does. It's a solid
yeah.
side close.
I also want to give a shout out to Robert Fripp who kills it on guitar on that album.
Oh, we'll get to Robert Fripp.
Amazing on Heroes. Yeah, I would definitely rank it a bit higher than you. For me, I would say that it's the poppier Low is how I've always seen it. But you do make a good point about the songwriting because if I'm not mistaken, most if not all the songs on here were written literally as he stepped up to the mic. So that's probably why the songwriting is a bit Not maybe not quite as strong as some of the other ones because he just kind of spitballed it. But the fact that he spitballed something that good, I think just kind of speaks to his talent.
I I heard that he had the backing track to Heroes done. He went out for a walk, wrote the lyrics on the walk. He's like, all right, let's do the vocals.
Yeah, and I also with Heroes, the whole I can remember standing by the wall, that was influenced by Tony Visconti having an affair with his backup singer. They were kissed by the Berlin Wall, and he thought it was just a weird place to make out.
The more you know.
Yeah.
All right, we're in the top 10. What's your 10th favorite Bowie album?
Next day, actually. Just kind of getting into this one. I really love it. I like you said, it's a great comeback record. Other songs I wanted to give a shout out to. I know Dancing Out in Space, You Will Set the World on Fire, You Feel So Lonely You Could Die. I know one of them, I think it's You Feel So Lonely You Could Die. I think it has like or one of the two, I don't remember which one. It has like the kind of callback to 5 years, like with the drum at the end, which I think is really cool. I love, like you said, that like alternative rock, art rock thing. There's some funkiness and glam stuff on here I love. Great comeback record. And this is one that I could definitely see, honestly, probably even growing the more I really dive into it. But, I really, really enjoy this record a lot. And I think it showed that, even in his 60s, he still had something to give. And I think, like you said, it stands out a lot because going back and looking at a lot of the stuff that was popular in 2013, 2014, I don't want to sound like, oh, old man out of the cloud, but there was a lot of shit on the charts back then. I mean, seriously, garbage. And just hearing like something like this is just such a breath of fresh air to like hear like, how inventive it still is, how clean it sounds, how just like it's just an amazing record. It just has such
I,
strong songwriting.
I think I said this when we did our top 10 non-Peach Boys albums episode. Um, excuse me. Dude, I gotta stop drinking these just any carbonated drinks during our episodes. It messes up my flow. I think I said this during our top 10 albums episode when I was talking about the Strokes, the new Abnormal. Records like these where people are still pushing for like different sounds. Because like I said, it's clearly an alt rock record, but it's still a unique sound. It shows that music is still progressing forward. It's just not in the charts anymore.
Yeah.
It's still a progression in music. Music is getting pushed forward. New ideas, new sounds, creative ways to mix and use different instruments. Still there. It's maybe not as popular as it was. And this is one of those records that kind of, I guess, give me hope that music can still get better. So
Yeah, definitely. I would say that a lot of like the more forward-thinking music is indie nowadays. I know you'll have some people that will argue that certain things in the charts nowadays are inventive or whatever. Various examples I've heard over the years, and I won't say names, but various
you
examples
better
I've heard over
not.
the years. Your mileage will vary on that. I'm not really hearing it, but if people hear it, more power to them. But I mean, just going back to like 2013 what was on the charts. Ooh, Lord, there was some crap. And I don't want to sound like, oh, you're just, 26-year-old old man. Like there really was some crap. But there was some good stuff too. There was some good stuff too. But yeah, that's my number 10 the next day.
My number 10 is David Bowie 69. Matt, you probably thought I had like in my top five. No, I do.
I knew you liked it more than most people do because I think most people would never have it that high.
And I think this is, first of all, super consistent record. The highlight, though, is kind of what shifts people's focus, and that's the obvious highlight of Space Oddity. That song is as great as people say it is, and
Dude.
honestly, for me, then some. I think it's one of the greatest songs ever written.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I
and to
agree.
think that Bowie was really just, first of all, he was still super young, but it also is at this point, it's just him and his guitar for the most part. This is a very folky album. I kind of consider this his Bob Dylan album
Hmm.
in any senses. Because I feel like the production on Space Oddity is honestly different from like the production on the rest of it, because the rest of it's just pretty much folk song after folk song. Yeah.
There's a reason for that. Tony Visconti refused to produce Space Oddity because he thought it was a novelty song. So he gave it to Gus Duddigon, or however you say his name, who actually produced a lot of early Elton John songs. So the same guy who produced like Your Song and stuff like that produced Space Oddity. So that probably explains why Space Oddity is a bit more fleshed out production wise than the Visconti stuff.
Although Tony Visconti did come back and I think he remixed it for like a
Yes.
21 mix.
Yes.
It it sounds pretty good.
Yeah,
Uh,
the remix does sound good for the whole album.
but but honestly, the way I view it, this is like his Birds album, his Bob Dylan album, and I think the songwriting is very strong. It's different, but it's strong. Letter to Hermione, he has such a tender vocal on that one. The Signet Committee, it goes on a little too long. I think 9 minutes for like a folk song like that doesn't need to be the case. But bulk of the song I really enjoy. Janine is honestly way more catchy than it should
I
be.
love Janine.
Um,
Yeah, it is.
Wild Eyed Boy from Free Cloud is one of my favorite Bowie songs, period. I love the descending chorus on it. I think it's just great songwriting. And even though the production isn't quite there, that's my one gripe with it. I feel like not that it's bad, but it's not as sonically exciting as some of his other albums for me. But what makes this album is just a great songwriting. And I feel like this is him really coming into his own as a songwriter. I honestly consider this more of his debut rather than his actual debut, because this is the debut of the real Bowie.
So did he.
Yeah. I think this is the debut of the real Bowie. And I could see why he's such a great songwriter, because when it's just him and his guitar and he's coming up with songs like these, it's like, what can he do with that with other tools and instruments? And we
Yeah.
know what he can do with other tools and instruments. So I love this one. It's a great folk rock album. It definitely deserves an unbiased listen. One of my favorite Bowie albums.
Yeah, I know I ranked it rather low, but I could definitely see this one going up in ranks just because like the first time I listened to it, I was kind of put off by it because it was just not what I was expecting. I'm not really expecting like a whole folk record. But like the more I could listen to it about two or three more times recently, and it's pretty good. Honestly, like I said, I will truly say I don't think Bowie has an awful record. Even his worst records are still very listenable. I mean, other than maybe pinups,
I
which is
like pinups. We can talk about pinups at the end, though.
yeah, I don't really have much to say about pinups, but yeah, no, I could definitely see it rising in rank. I would definitely say too. You mentioned that Space Oddity kind of overclouded. That's true, and also because when it was reissued for a very long time, it was called Space Oddity, and they even put a picture of Ziggy Stardust on the cover. I'm sure you've seen that cover before.
I've seen that cover in my local record shop. I've never bothered picking it up, though.
I've never seen it in the record shop, so you've done better than me. But
Well, it
yeah,
was like $40. I'm not gonna pay $40. I
oh,
love
yeah,
the
you pay
album. I'm not
$40
gonna pay
for it.
$40.
Also, too, fun fact, and this is for the listeners. So there's the hidden track after Unwashed is Somewhat Slightly Dazed. Don't sit down. Like the quick little that was actually cut from the RCA reissue. It was not reinstated until the Ryko reissue in the 90s. Not that I think most people really noticed, because if you're not really paying attention, you won't notice it. But yeah, just a fun fact.
Number nine, Matt. What's your number nine?
No too much Bowie stuff, right?
Number nine.
This is an album that seems to be very polarizing. You either love it or you hate it. I love it. Young Americans. I think that this album honestly has some of the best songwriting he ever did. I think the title track is one of his best songs, period. I think the lyric, we live for just these 20 years, do we die for the 50 more, is one of the most brilliant lyrics I've ever heard in my life. I think that when you take somebody, a white British man who basically like took American soul music, black soul music, and basically like used that as a tool to write about how he viewed America, that's brilliant. And that's what that song is. It's absolutely brilliant. It shows you the state of American society in the 70s. Win, one of the greatest songs he ever wrote. I know it was one of his favorites. I wish he sang it live more than once, but that song, the saxophone, the sax playing by David Sanborn, fucking incredible on this album. Incredible. He did an amazing job. The backing band is amazing. A young Luther Vandross all over the place, which is like the song Fascination. That was a rewrite of a Luther Vandross song. Great groovy song. Right is another great groovy song. Somebody Up There Likes Me, I think, has one of his best vocal performances ever. I think his vocals in general are top notch on this album. And I think that's another brilliantly written song about the cult of personality. And also, too, here's a lyric that he wrote in the 70s that's honestly rings true today. The savage son of the TB tube. You could probably say that. Sorry about that. You could probably say that about our last president. Kind of was the savage son of the TB tube. Then, of course, you come to the thing that I think this is the one song that makes people hate it, the cover of Across the Universe. I think that song alone is the reason why some people hate that album so much. I don't think it's an amazing cover, but I don't think it's that bad. I think people overhate it. Because like there are entire people that literally say they hate the whole record because of that one cover, which I think is ridiculous.
Yeah, man. That's like people hating on LA for Here Comes the Night.
Yeah, and I think also too, because I think the other problem that this album has is it was such a complete 180 from Diamond Dogs, and I think people weren't expecting it. And I think
Right.
which is like even Bowie himself had very mixed opinions on Young Americans. Like first he said it was like the cheapest plastic soul you ever heard. Then later he was like, you know what? I had a great backing band on it. There's some good songs on there. I know he loved Win, which I want to give a shout out to that song again. I freaking love that song. Someone like you should not be allowed to start any fires. Amazing lyric. I could listen to that song on a loop for 10 hours. Can you hear me? Is the last two songs of Can You Hear Me? Great vocal, great love bout. And then of course his first number one hit, Fame. Amazing song. Amazing song. A riff so good that James Brown stole it. Can't do better than that. And that's also Carlos Alomar that came up with that riff. And then I know Lennon is on that song. I don't know how much Lennon actually wrote. There's a theory that Lennon didn't really write anything, and Bowie just gave him a credit.
I can hear Lennon's influence in some parts. Lennon was doing a lot of similar sounding stuff around this time. He was doing shit, what's the I think it was Walls and Bridges was around this time
Rock and
and
roll was
was
around.
doing a lot of like soul influenced music. I have no doubt in my mind Lennon had some sort of influence on that song.
Yeah, but I love the record. I think the only reason it isn't ranked higher for me is the Across the Universe cover kind of brings it down a bit. And I love it, but I don't think it's as strong as some of the stuff that comes after. But I still absolutely love it. Still like a 9 out of 10 record for me. And I would not want to be without that record in my life.
Damn.
I love it. I really do love Young Americans.
You are not alone in that. I might be alone in this one though. My number nine is
Yeah, you're definitely alone on that one.
Midori.
Way higher for
But
me.
like I said earlier, pretty much everything in my top 10 is like a 9 out of 10 album. So like don't kill me. Like I love this album. I just like eight more Bowie albums more than it. It's pretty simple. Um Similarly to like I said about Bowie 69 where you could see his songwriting taking like a big jump start. I think this is like that, but on cocaine. Like his songwriting here is pretty much, you could argue at his peak, because I know a lot of people rank this one at number one. Changes is one of the greatest songs of all time. Oh, You Pretty Things is one of the greatest songs of all time. Life on Mars is one of the greatest songs of all time. The songwriting here is peak. This is a very singer-songwritery album. It sounds a lot, Billy Joel sounds a lot like this album. You could like a lot. Elton John sounds a lot like this album. You could see a lot of influence. And like I said with Bowie 69, I think this honestly the biggest thing about this album is just great songwriting. Um, I really like Kook's.
Great song.
Obviously, Queen Bitch is a killer song. You kind of see the birth of him in Glam with that one.
Yep.
Um, Quicksand's pretty good. I like the nod to Bob Dylan with a song for Bob Dylan, but
Best song.
it's just some of the songs on here, especially when you get to the back half, it slows down in quality for me. They become a little bit less memorable. Um, I
You don't
think
like Blues Brothers?
I like it. I don't like it as much as some other people.
I love
Uh,
that song. I love that song.
so I guess it just comes down to though more than anything. Like I think it's a very consistent album. I feel like it's almost as if the highs, the 10 out of 10s overshadow the 8 out of 10s and the 7 out of 10s on here.
Ah,
But if you took something like Boulay Brothers on here and put it on for whatever reason, Never Let Me Down, be the best song on there. It's although I guess that's like a poor example, but it's just I
well,
feel like the highs are so high that some of the lows on it aren't as recognized, and I can't really listen to them as much. Because I'm listening to this album, I'm listening to it for Changes, Life on Mars, Queen Bitch, yeah. But
yeah,
I still think it's great. I actually have the picture disc. I think I showed that at the beginning.
we weren't taping.
We weren't taping, so I have the picture disc of it. I got that for my birthday.
Nice.
A
No,
friend.
I love, I mean, I'll talk more about it when we get to it, but yeah, I love Hunky Dory. I absolutely, I think it's a brilliant record. Masterpiece, 10 out of 10. Not a bad cut on there for me. Love it. And you mentioned Billy Joel and Elton John. Don't kill me, Jake, but I would argue this is better than anything Billy Joel or Elton John ever put together. Ever. At least we're
That's
talking,
tough. Billy Joel has one incredible album in The Stranger.
but I mean, is it better than this though? Depends what you ask, probably.
Might be. I don't know. That's tough because you're putting up two. First of all, I want to shout out Bowie started writing with piano on this album.
Yeah, he did.
Opened up his entire. It took something that he was just writing on guitar before, which writing on guitar can get pretty hard after a while. So I think that opened up a new way of songwriting for him.
I'll take your word
But
for it.
as I was saying, um, The Stranger and um, Hunky Dory are two like incredible, legendary singer-songwriter albums. So they are easy to compare, I guess, songwriting wise and like production and arrangement wise. You have to come back to me on that because I like both pretty equally.
Yeah. Well, I know that at least among critics, I think generally speaking, Bowie is the best of the three among critics.
Bowie's lyrics were better, but Billy Joel has some damn good hooks.
Yeah,
So
he
I
was
don't
good
know.
with folks.
That's tough.
I've never really deep dove into Elton John's albums. Apparently, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road is the best, but Yeah, I never really deep dove into his album.
Neither have I. I can't answer that.
That would be a Justin question or Jake. I think he listens to a lot of Elton. All right. Number 8 for me is Black Star. I totally get your feelings on the album, and I think those are totally valid. But for me, I think the strength of the songwriting, the poignancy of the lyrics, and I think the kind of jazzy rock thing he's going for is incredible. Other than the songs you mentioned, I want to give a shout out to Girl Loves Me. Where the fuck did Monday go? Love that lyric. Dollar Days, I really love the part where he's like mentioning like he may never see England again. I think that's really touching. Lazarus is a very touching song. You know, look up here, I'm in heaven, I've got scars that can't be seen. And then of course, I can't give everything away with the callback to a new career, a new town, you know. And I think that's like him basically. This whole album to me comes across as a man who knows he's running out of time, and it's just very. He just wishes he could give more to the fans, wishes he could give more to the world, but he knows he's running out of time. And I get almost a little choked up just listening to a lot of this album because it's just such a brilliant, poignant listen. I think it's, you know, to really turn your death into art like that, I think is really something special. And I think that I don't think too many artists could pull that off like Bowie did. And I love just like the jazzy influence. I love, you know, I think I mentioned this to you before. Like, it's a lot more upbeat sounding in parts. I mean, at least melodically speaking, it's a lot more upbeat than you would expect from the album. Like, you would think, like, I kind of put this one off for a while just because, like, I was just afraid, like, how, like, you know, heavy it is. And I definitely think it's a very heavy listen, but I think there's just so much brilliant songwriting in here. And he's really still firing at all cylinders, even as he's dying of cancer. And that's just incredible.
I remember when Bowie died. I'm in 2016. I was like the first celebrity. Keep in mind, I was 13 years old. It was the first celebrity that I truly recognized dying. Because I've heard like names before as like, oh, this actor or whatever. Like, oh, I remember him from that
And
movie.
for me, it was probably Michael Jackson. I was 10 when he died.
Yeah.
Almost 11, turned 11.
Actually, I guess Michael Jackson technically, but this was the first person where it's like, oh, I know Starman and I know Space Oddity.
Me
And I
too.
was
Yeah.
13 and it was like, damn, all right. And like it didn't hit as hard as it would maybe now if he like died now.
Yeah.
But I knew, and that's kind of what got me into his music a little bit with those two specific songs. I knew them from the radio and stuff. I think I had Space Oddity on a CD somewhere. And then I remember watching The Martian my freshman year of high school. This was like a year or two later. Um, and then I was like, oh, that's David Bowie. Fuck.
Yeah.
And then Starman became one of my favorite songs of all time. So
Yeah, I saw that movie before he died. I watched it in 2015 when it came out. But yeah, I would say Bowie's death didn't hit me as hard as Prince's death did a couple months later because I was already really I had been a big Prince fan, but I was for about a year. I hadn't really gotten into Bowie yet, but like I did remember definitely thinking like, wow, we lost a big one there. And then, of course, we had so many deaths in 2016 that came afterwards. You know what I mean? So
Harambe, yeah.
yeah, Harambe for sure. But there's just, you know, it's just but yeah, it's just an incredible record.
Number 8, and I want to clarify because not that I'm like messing anything up here, but number 8 and number 7 are truly interchangeable. And honestly, in more ways than my number 2 and my number 1. Uh, my number 8 is Low, this one. One of my favorite album covers of all time, by the way.
Great cover.
It's one of those album covers that, for whatever, it really matches the music. Um,
Yeah, because I that was a still from The Man Who Fell to Earth, actually.
Bingo. And I remember for a while I was like trying to figure out how do I comb my hair like him from that movie. I've kind of figured it out a little bit.
I was gonna say I do love his hair he had around that time where it was like
Oh my, he just has great hair in
like it was
general.
like orange, but the blonde started coming through again.
Right.
I love that color.
But besides that, like I said with the opposite of Heroes, where I like side 2 of Heroes more than I like side 2 of Low. I like side 1 of Low more than I like side 1 of Heroes. But it's like an astronomical step up. I've listened to side 1 of Low so many fucking times. Speed of Life is just an incredible way to open up the album. It's one of my favorite instrumentals. It's so like uplifting and like punchy. I love it. I think it's guitar on it, maybe. I can't tell. I mean, I know he's doing a lot of synth stuff.
Hmm.
Regardless, I love that lead line. Whatever plays that lead line, that down, like that kind of thing. Whatever's playing that, great. Breaking Glass took me a little bit to get into, but it is a bit funky.
Love that
I,
song.
I love Breaking Glass, and something you immediately notice is like the disorganized songwriting on this album.
which is what I love about it.
Right, and then that's what I like about it too, because what I like about especially this kind of artist, David Bowie, and I guess another one I can point to is actually ELO, is I like it when artists subvert your expectations in their songs. Something I liked about ELO was like Jeff Lynne would take what is pretty much a standard chord progression that's recognizable in some of your like favorite songs, and he'd subvert your expectations by throwing in like a different chord change than what you'd expect. Bowie does this, but to a completely different level. And that's what makes this song super exciting. Um, What in the World is my least favorite song on this side, but I still get great joy from it. And then you have what is arguably my favorite Bowie song of all time in Sound and Vision.
Great.
And completely subverts your expectations because halfway through I'm like, oh, this is a really good instrumental, and then it's like blue, blue, electric, blue. Subverts your expectations. It's a super catchy song. I could hear that thing go on for about 16 minutes and not get bored.
I have to
Great chord. Yeah,
I have to say, it is probably the most uplifting song you've ever heard about crippling depression.
exactly. And I remember listening to this my sophomore year of college, like during the wrestling season, particularly when I was like cutting weight. It was just like I put on Sound and Vision and I was taken to a completely other world. Incredible song. But that's just the start of one of my favorite three song suites of all time. Always crashing in the same car. Like I could relate to that so much when around that time I was getting this album for the first time because I was like really depressed. I was like going through like college. Everything was a slog. Just waking up every day, doing the same routine every day. And this song, incredible, great chorus. And then he goes immediately, which a song that reminds me of TV C15, except it's called Be My Wife. I love it. It's super energetic, super fun. But I'm sure there's some sort of underlying theme of depression in this one, but I think it's a really fun song. Please be mine.
Share
Yeah, I really like it.
my life. Love that
And I
song.
like the way it closes with a new career in a new town. I think that's an interesting way that he bookends the sides with two instrumentals. And then side two starts off with my favorite Bowie instrumental, Warsaw. Like you've said it, I'm not going to take your line because I'm sure you'll talk about it when we get to that. So I'm not going to take your line about a certain um but side two does slow down a little bit, but I do like Art Decade and Subterraneans. I know you're a big fan of. I like
Love.
the instrumentals better on Heroes, but that doesn't mean I don't like the instrumentals on this album. But I think the one thing that carries this album for me is side one is one of my favorite album sides of all time. So,
Yeah. I mean, I'll talk about Low later, but yeah, I kind of agree with everything you say. I love the discordant songwriting as well. And I want to give a great shout out to the Eventide harmonizer that Cody's Conti ran the drums through. That drum sound, and I don't think it's wrong for me to say that that drum sound on that album is more influential than some artists' entire career because that album was very highly influential on post-punk.
oh yeah, no, I was gonna say New Order, Joy Division, big influence, very much influenced by Bowie.
Big time. Okay, number seven, right?
Uh, yeah, yes, number seven.
And number seven for me is Heroes. I love this album. I love the album cover. I love the jacket he's wearing on the cover. I actually want to own that jacket. I think it's an awesome jacket. I love honestly, I don't think there's a bad song on here for me. Like you said, Beauty and the Beast is great. Joe the Lion has grown on me so much. Like I just freaking love that song for some reason. I believe that song was written about a daredevil. I sometimes will just like randomly scream it out like Joe! I just love the freaking song, man. And I also love the lyric that's like nail me to my car and I'll tell you who you are. Obviously, the title track, one of the greatest songs ever written. I will say though, I don't care for the single mix. I think you need the full 6 minute version to really have that build up. I think the 3 minute version kind of you lose something. That's at least my take on it. But I love the guitar solo from Robert Fripp. How you put like they put like the three solos together. Sons of the Silent Age, love the sax on there. And I love what I love about Sons of the Silent Age is I love like the how there's a dichotomy between like the verses and the chorus. The verses are kind of soft, the choruses are really loud. Blackout, I know that one you didn't really mention, but I really like that one a lot. Um, Especially like I don't know, it's just like the lyrics are really like hard on that one. Like you walk on past, your lips cut a smile on your face, your scalding face. I'm under Japanese influence. I just love it. B2 Schneider's cool. Instrumentals are really good. Um, probably my favorite is the transition from what's the first one called before Moss Garden?
A sense of doubt.
Sense of Doubt. So the transition from Sense of Doubt to Moss Garden with like the plane going through your ears, incredible. And then Moss Garden is so peaceful. It's like I just want to listen to that one like laying down like in like a little like one of those like little like with the koi ponds and everything. And
Very
then
fitting name for the
very
instrument.
fitting name. And then Knucklin, just that saxophone just wails, and it's just like the pain in the saxophone, man, is incredible. And then Secret Life of Arabia, I've grown to really like it. I didn't like it that much at first, not because I had anything against the song, but I just think it didn't fit on the album where it was. But like I said, in the context of everything, when you throw Lodger in there, it makes a lot of sense. So I really love Heroes. It's just where it is right now. The reason it's only number 7, I like the other 6 better. But quality wise, 10 out of 10.
I think the reason why I like Heroes instrumentals more is because they do transition into each other
Yeah, they do segue nicely. They do.
compared to it makes the side a lot more cohesive, I guess. And I'm a sucker for songs transitioning into each other. So
You would love the first like 4 songs on Prince's Parade, then they all segue into one another.
yeah, that was like one of the reasons why I loved The Wall at first listen.
And Abbey Road's medley is awesome too for that reason.
Yeah, I remember when I first listened to whatever album it was. It was a Pink Floyd album. I don't know which one it was. But and I did this a lot of times. I would like watch the song transition on Spotify. I was like, "Oh, it's coming," and then it goes right into the next song. And I do that. I did that with Heroes, and yeah,
No, I was gonna say it sucks when you have a CD player that doesn't have gapless playback because it will literally like have to pause to change the track. That's like the CD player.
that is that. See, the songs transitioning into each other is like the most like a satisfying thing for me. That is one of the most annoying things for me of all time. Is when a song is supposed to transition to the next, and it's like skips for like a split second. It's not seamless.
Yeah, my dad's car is like that. So like if I put like Abbey Road in there, it's gonna like cut in between the track.
Oh, yeah, that'd piss me off. All right. So my number 7, keep in mind, this and Low are pretty much tied for me, is Diamond Dogs. Um, what I like about this one is what most people don't like about it is that it's not very cohesive with its sounds.
No,
In the
it's not.
sense that some songs are glam, like pure glam, and then a song like 1984 is honestly more soul than glam or what's the other one that was ugh. And then like you get things like Sweet Thing, which is glam-ish, but it's honestly a little bit more singer-songwriter than glam-ish. But I love that Bowie's incorporating other styles into the very end of his glam rock career. And it kind of gives you an idea of what's coming next, especially in a song like 1984. 1984 is a fucking bop. Um, as is Rebel Rebel. I think that's one of my most listened to songs in 2022.
Great
I
song.
love the guitar riff. I loved learning how to play the guitar riff. I remember that was like one of the first like riffs that I was like would play nonstop over and over and over and over again.
And
And
I
I know
think
it
the lyrics are
shit
really
out of people playing it.
I think the lyrics are really fitting too, because like, you got your mother in a world, she's not sure if you're a boy or girl. I think that kind of describes Bowie to a T. He was
I've heard that that Rebel Rebel had been lying around for a while.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Like I think I've heard that it was like supposed to be on either Ziggy or Aladdin Sane, but I don't know the truth behind that. But I love Rebel Rebel. I love the Sweet Thing candidate, Sweet. I think that is one of Bowie's more creative moments in terms of just pure songwriting. And I think it works. It's a little disjointed, but I really like it. I think that the title track absolutely rips.
Hmm.
Side 2 slows down a little bit, but that being said, I don't think it slows down so much as like some of his other side 2s, because I think Bowie always had really strong side 1s. Um, that being said, I think sonically it's great. I know Bowie produced this. He did a lot of the instrumentation on it.
He did.
Uh, he has great vocal performances. It's just the cover, by the way, one of my favorite Bowie covers, period.
My
It's very red, but it's also very colorful at the same time. I can't really describe it.
My sister hates that cover. When I showed her that cover the first time, she literally looked at me. She said, "I hate David Bowie." She hates that cover so much. She hates it. I don't know why. She just really doesn't like it. But Yeah, I know I ranked it kind of low. I definitely think with more listens, it might go up in rank for me. And I
Yeah,
not too long
I'll
ago.
admit side two is a bit slow. It's a bit slower. It grew on me too. This used to be one of my lesser favorites, but I still really liked it. Side one is incredible. I love side one. Once 1984 clicked with me, it was when the rest of side two clicked with me.
Yeah,
Except for the chant of the ever circling skeletal family. I cannot stand that song.
I just got not too long ago the 50th anniversary Half Speed Master, so definitely will be spinning that one once I fix the turntable situation.
It, it's a grower. It's very much a grower of an album.
I just want to ask you this. I've never really understood this. Justin Timberlake claims that Sexy Back was inspired by Rebel Rebel. Do you hear that at all? I don't know where he got that from. Maybe like the way the vocals are
That's
performed.
what I was gonna say. I think it's in the vocal cadence.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can maybe hear it.
Yeah.
But that's about it. Otherwise, I mean, I love Future Sex Love Sounds, but I never really understood. Like, if he had said I was inspired by Let's Dance or Young Americans, okay, I can hear that. But you're saying you're inspired by that song, I don't. Maybe, and like you said, the cadence and the delivery of the vocals, but that's about it. Still a great song though.
Yeah.
Number six, for me, Aladdin Sane. First of all, probably the best cover art Bowie ever did. One of the most iconic cover arts ever, and also the most expensive cover art at that point in time.
I did not know that. How much did it cost, you know?
Let me look it up real quick because I'm not 100% sure, but I know that I read it was the most expensive cover art of all time.
I'm
Uh,
not sure because it looks great.
it is great. Let me see how much it cost. Expensive. It cost. It doesn't say. It just said it was the most expensive cover art of all time, but
Fair enough.
it cost a lot of money. So I know that he's kind of described this album as like Ziggy Goes to America, and I can definitely kind of hear that both in like the influences and like the lyrics, because you have like the Gene Genie where it's like New York's a go go and everything tastes nice. You have obviously Panic in Detroit. Um, I would say the highlight for me, my absolute most favorite song on here is probably what's that? Driving Saturday. I think that is an absolutely
Oh man, that's my favorite too. You took that from me.
that's okay. I'll let you talk about it, but I just think it's my favorite song. I will say too that I really like Time. I know that that's a song that a lot of people dislike, but I really like that song. I like the build up in that song where like it kind of starts off quiet, like the verse are quiet, then the chorus is just all crashing and everything. Um, Title track is great. With the piano, kind of the piano solo at the beginning is very like jazzy, kind of experimental. I think Lady Grinning Soul is a great closer. There's two things that I dock on this album. I really cannot stand the cover of Let's Spend the Night Together. I think it's awful. I know some people may like it. I don't. I think it's terrible. And the other thing I don't like about it, not the prettiest star, I don't mind this version, but are you familiar with the version from 70 with Mark Bolan? I like that version better.
Much better.
It's much better. Yeah, I don't think he did a great job re-recording that one. So for me, honestly, I would probably rank this. Probably it would be in my top five if you take off Let's Spend the Night Together. I just don't like that cover, and you put on John I'm Only Dancing the Sax version. But otherwise, I think it's a great record. One not so great cover cannot ruin how great this damn record is because every other song on there is phenomenal. It is a brilliant, brilliant record.
All right, Matt. I feel like even though I have this higher than you probably like this record more than I do because this Young Americans.
Mhm.
The title track is is probably my favorite Bowie song of all time.
Great song. Great
It
song.
it's it's my favorite Bowie song of all time. I think his vocal delivery is one of his best, and there's that one moment in that song that I think is the best vocal delivery from him ever. And it's right after the I heard the news today, oh boy. And he goes, I'm gonna see you. He
Yeah.
fucking lets it rip. And that is my favorite vocal moment from Bowie. Um, and it's just so full of life and energy, yet it's also criticizing the United States, like you said. It's weird because Bowie could take what is like lyrically is like very like aggressive song and it's like angry towards America and then it's still a fucking bop. You can dance to this one. It's like a it's weird, but it's my favorite Bowie song of all time. I love the sound on it. I love his vocal performance. I love the lyrics on it. Everything that I could want in a Bowie song, I guess, is in this. minus a couple of like production stuff. But like he was going for Philly soul. He wasn't going for like Scary Monsters or whatever. Favorite Bowie song of all time. So that already carries a lot of weight with me. But then you have banger after banger. You have Win, which you said is just that hook that all you have to do is win is phenomenal. Fascination is so fucking groovy. Right's another great one. I don't care for his cover of Across the Universe. I don't think it's bad though. Like I think similarly to his God Only Knows cover, like I think it's a solid cover. It's just you're also covering one of like the big songs of all time, and you'll never be able to do those songs justice. Nobody can.
Though to be fair, I don't think John loved how Across the Universe came out. I think he hated it.
Yeah, and then you have another one of my favorite Bowie songs, Fame. I
Same.
absolutely hear John's influence on it. If you've ever listened to Walls and Bridges and you hear the song Whatever Gets You Through the Night, it's like, okay, yeah, John definitely plays a part in this song. Maybe it's more so on the arrangements or on like the melodic part of it rather than the actual like lyrics and stuff.
Nah, the lyrics are pure Bowie.
Yeah, because the lyrics are pure Bowie. He definitely played a part melodically or production wise in Bowie
And I
gave him the
believe the riff was Carlos Alomar came up with
The
that.
riff was Carlos Alomar, and Carlos Alomar rips.
He's great on it. Yeah.
And I love the extra backing vocal after he says "fame," and then you hear the little "fame." I'm pretty sure that's Lennon.
I think,
Uh,
yeah.
so I know they're good friends. This also during John's long vacation, whatever the hell it's called. I forgot.
Last weekend.
Long weekend. Um, but yeah, this album it's the best way I could describe it. It has a groove to it that no other Bowie album has. There's just five other albums I would listen to ahead of it.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. But yeah, I think it's just like you said, you described it well. It's a brilliant, brilliant record. Honestly, it might even be higher in my ranking depending on the day. My rankings are never static. They change all
Right. I
the
mean,
time.
dude, this could theoretically reach number one for me. Well, no. There's
No.
two albums that are really hard to beat, but
Okay. So
yeah.
my number five, Scary Monsters and Super Creeps. I think this is a great record. I think you said it best, and I'll let you go into more detail about it. Is like where it's kind of like it's like an amalgamation of everything he was doing. I think side A, one of the greatest side A's ever. I mean, seriously, not a bad song on there. I would say what I really like about It's No Game is like how it's very aggressive on side A, but then at the end it's a lot softer. I think that the three-song suite of Scary Monsters, Ashes to Ashes, and Fashion, incredible. Um, yeah, it's just a great record. I love the little production quirks on it too. Like I love that opening in like Scary Monsters where it's like the boom, 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 boom. I love the way he sings in that Cockney accent. Ashes to Ashes, one of his best songs. Absolutely brilliant song. I love that like flaying sound effect. You know, it's like the do 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 do. Love it. Fashion is a great song. Not only is it about, fashion, but I think it's also some people say it's kind of like it's like his take on authoritarianism, which I can hear that too.
Hmm?
You know?
It's a very Bowie take on that kind of topic.
Take, yeah. Side B is a little bit weaker for me, but it still has some good songs. Teenage Wildlife is a great song. I know that one was kind of like an FU to Gary Newman, a lot of those new artists, like same old thing in new drag and stuff. And I mentioned obviously It's No Game part two. But yeah, it's a great record. And this is one that I could definitely see growing, honestly, for me. It's an awesome record. And I love the cover too, with like the kind of like I think it's supposed to be like that famous like clown from like opera character. But yeah, great record.
My number five is higher than I feel like most people have it. It's Let's Dance.
Yeah, that's definitely a lot higher than most people would have it.
I I understand all the criticism for it, but I truly do. It's kind of like Kokomo with the Beach Boys, where like it's great, but what came next, not so much.
Not so much,
Even
exactly.
though I am a fan of some of that stuff. That being said, though, you can't deny it's just one of the all-time great pop albums. It's pure pop. I don't think there's much like artistic statement with it, but it's just pure pop, and Bowie knocks it out of the park. Modern Love is in my top four or five favorite Bowie songs. I think there's so much emotion to it, even though I guess the lyrics were meant to mean nothing, which I think is pretty funny. From what I heard, it's just him like just ranting about random shit. Uh,
God is there.
Modern love, walk beside me, modern. It's a great hook. Bowie could write some great hooks when he really tried.
Yeah.
China Girl, I used to hate this one because I actually thought it was a bit racist. Then I actually learned the meaning about it, and it's quite the opposite.
No, it is. And fun fact, and this is something that would probably shock a lot of people. China Girl actually beat out Michael Jackson's Thriller for the very first VMA for Best Male Video.
I used to like that's cool. I used to like the Iggy Pop version a bit better. And
Mhm.
then I don't know what happened. I just like the Bowie version now a lot more.
Yeah.
They're pretty good. They're both really good. There's not much change there. Let's Dance. I love the little and then breaks into the yeah, that was awesome. I love a good breakdown. I think that's a very hooky song. It's one of those songs where it's 7.5 minutes, but you don't realize it.
Yeah.
Um,
And I love the lyric, because my heart for you would break, because my love for you would break my heart in two if you could fall into my arms and tremble like a flower. I think that's a great lyric.
yeah. Without You is a very catchy song, and that's the thing. Like even like the smaller moments on this album, like this, I guess the middle couple of songs that I don't like as much as the others, they're still very hooky. They're still very catchy. They're great pop songs. And this is one of my favorite songs in the album. Is Cat People Putting Out Fire.
Hmm.
I like this version better than the one that people usually like. This is my go-to version.
Yeah, the
I,
soundtrack version.
I like this one way better. It fucking rips. And then another great vocal performance. Who's like, putting out the fire with gasoline.
I
I
want to
think
say now,
great.
Rob, amazing job of the production on here.
Yes, I feel like this album owes a lot to Nile Rodgers.
Mhm.
I love Tony Visconti, but I feel like I don't think he could have pulled this off.
I
The
don't think.
same. It's so slick. That's the best way I can describe it. It's just super slick production. It sounds great. Stevie Ray Vaughan kills all the guitar parts.
Great on it yet.
I think it's just honestly, like I know it's nothing artistic, and I know that's a lot why a lot of people love Bowie, but for a pure pop album from the 80s, it might be the best 80s pop album to me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would say it's better than like say Purple Rain for me, but it's definitely a very good album.
I I love this one. I love it.
Yeah, no, it is definitely a great record. Though I will say I don't think it losing album of the year to Thriller was a huge tragedy because I do think Thriller is a better album.
Might have my favorite Bowie album cover too.
It's a
Might.
pretty it is a pretty good cover. It is.
I love him with the
Yeah, like the boxing gloves and everything.
so this year for Bowie was one of my favorite Bowie looks with like the yellow curly hair. I love
The
it.
yellow curly quiff, yeah, and he started suiting up. I know that some people didn't like this era though, because this is when he basically said he was always straight. He kind of went back into the
Well,
closet.
you kind of had to. I mean,
I had to be like because so the context just for anybody who's not aware, he signed a new deal with EMI because he got screwed by his old manager Tony DeFries on his old contract because Tony DeFries basically took half of all his royalties for his like later 70s album. So that's why some people say that's why he did the Berlin trilogy the way it was because he knew it wasn't going to sell as well. So Tony DeFries wouldn't rip him off as much. So when he signed the contract with EMI, he got a nice advance and he wanted to make an album that he knew was going to sell millions. And it did
yeah.
for good
Oh,
reason.
I did.
So number four for me, Station to Station. I think that this album is absolutely brilliant. I would describe this album as let's take the funk rock of Young Americans, let's add in kind of the Kraftwerky art rock stuff that you would see on the Berlin trilogy, and let's deconstruct it and reconstruct it in a cocaine-induced haze. How the fuck he created such an amazing album, so coked out of his mind he doesn't remember it later, is totally beyond me. The title track, one of his best songs, the freaking this when the song goes from like the intro, like the Return of the Thin White Duke into the boom, 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 boom. Once there were mountains, incredible, incredible transition. Golden Years, great funk rock track. Um, I think Word on a Wing has one of his best vocal performances. I think it's a very touching song. TVC 15 fucking slaps. I mean, seriously,
More than it should.
there's so much shit going on in that song, but it's freaking amazing. Stay is probably my least favorite on there, but it's still a very solid track. And then Wild as the Wind, I think is his best cover. The guitar work on there is incredible. The vocal is incredible. He knocked it out of the park. Only 6 songs long, but only 6 tracks. But like seriously, it's like 6 tracks, and some of them are like 5, 6 minutes long. But you just love it. Like it's just such a good fucking record, and I love the cover too. I still like it. That's an album that always blows my mind how good it is considering his state of mind. It's just
And
incredible
he apparently never remembered making it.
at all. And he was just drinking milk and eating peppers and keeping his urine in the fridge. but it's a fucking incredible. I freaking love that record so much.
Matt, you took the words right out of my mouth.
That number 4 for you as well.
No. Which sucks because my number four is Aladdin Sane.
Okay.
I think we have reached the point where we are not only past there are no bad songs on here. I think every song on here is at least an 8 out of 10. Um, with like 1 7 mixed in there.
What's
But you
the
don't notice it when you listen to it all the way through. You also took the words right out of my mouth when you said that your favorite was Drive-In Saturday, because I mean, holy shit, I love that song. It is
more?
that is Bowie doing America at its best because it sounds American, but it also sounds Bowie. It has that like 50s chord style, chord changes, uh,
Duapi.
talking about the drive-in and oh, that's such a beautiful song. And that hook of he said his name was
Was
Billy.
Buddy, and he
Or
shot.
Buddy in my bad.
Love
But
that.
it's holy shit, it's incredible. Watch That Man is an incredible opener. It sets the
Oh,
pace. Aladdin saying the title track is honestly my least favorite song on here, but I
really?
still think,
I love
yeah.
it. I
Oh,
love
I
the
love it too, but it's just my it's again, it's like there's
watching
nine better
Castaway,
songs.
swinging an old bouquet. Dead Roses.
Panic in Detroit, hell of
Pretty
a riff. Shout out Mick Ronson.
Nick Ronson.
Cracked Actor is
That's a good one too.
very, very fitting title because that song is balls to the wall with the guitar.
Like smack, baby, smack. The lyrics are really crazy too in that
Very
song.
sexual, very crazy.
Very sexual.
He literally says, "Give me some head." So,
Yep.
Time is probably my second least favorite. But again, the vocal performance on that one's incredible. Um, Prettiest Star, I know I said the 1970 version was better, but this version still fucking slaps.
It's still a good version. It
Great
is.
guitar, great melody to it. Let's Spend the Night Together. I know I prefer the Rolling Stones version, but this is still lots of energy to it. It's a cover done right. It's just again, you're living up to the Rolling Stones version. Gene Genie, I love the Gene Genie,
Oh,
and you know
love
who
that.
else does? My dad loves the Gene Genie. This is my dad's favorite Bowie song.
It's a great song.
He loves it. Love the riff on it. Lady Grinning Soul is what a way to end the album.
Great. I always call it the Bond anthem that never was because it sounds like
Right,
the Bond movie.
exactly. I love this album. There is not a single miss on it. There's not a single okay song. I think every song is great. Um, it's just there's 3 other albums, man. It's just 3 other albums.
No,
Great guitar on this, by the way. I think while Ziggy is obviously because it's not, I haven't mentioned it yet, is the better album. I think he really refined that glam sound with this album.
yeah,
Because Ziggy was kind of a mix of Aladdin Sane and Hunky Dory.
yeah.
This is just pure Ziggy.
This
It's
is.
heavy. It's even more Ziggy than Ziggy Stardust.
Um, Transitioning well. My number 3 is what a lot of people probably rank as their number 1, The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. I'll keep it pretty brief because I think that there's been a lot been talked about with this album and written about it. Brilliant record. 5 years, what an opener. I love how you can hear Bowie at the end. Like he's literally in tears. He was in tears recording that song. Soul Love, I think is pretty cool, how it's pretty funky, how it goes into there. The saxophone's great on it. Moon Age Daydream fucking slaps. Mick Ronson kills it on guitar. Absolutely incredible song. Starman, thank you, executive at RCA, for suggesting that song go on the record because not only did it make Bowie a star, it's an amazing song. And I'm sure you know that when he performed on Top of the Pops and looked at the TV, like that was considered the moment that made him a star. So many people were watching it that night. Then you have In and Easy, which is probably the weakest song on the album, but I still think it's a solid cover. Um, then you have Lady Stardust, right? That's a beautiful song. That song like is another song that's very
Get some pussy now.
yeah, but I also love how it kind of touches on like the queerness of Bowie. Like I smiled sadly for a love I could not obey. It's it kind of is like, you kind of see why so many outcasts and so many queer people back in the day really found themselves attached to David Bowie because he could kind of empathize with their struggles and songs like that. Um, Star, I love that. I love the riff on that one and I love the lyrics. Um, Next is Ziggy Stardust, right?
After Hang On to Yourself?
Oh, is Hang On to Yourself next?
Yeah.
After Stars, Hang On to Yourself.
Yeah.
Pretty solid one too. Yep, that's a nice one too. I like the line, "We move like tigers on Vaseline." Then Ziggy Stardust, another one with a great riff and a great vocal performance from Bowie. Suffragette City, that's a solid one too, but probably one of my lesser ones on there. And then one of the greatest closers of all time, Rock and Roll Suicide. That final chord, man. And those,
There's that one version from the live show. People
oh yeah,
literally crying.
that's a
It's like
great.
the last time we'll ever be performing.
The last show, what are we gonna do? But seriously though, I mean, that's just what a closer, man. I always get goosebumps with like the lyrics and "Give me your hands because you're not alone." Definitely,
Give me your hands.
like it's like a song that I think that that song has saved people's lives. I really do, and I think that closer, man. Oh my God, with the final chord. Ugh. But seriously though, not a bad song. Even like the songs like I don't really care for as much, like Suffragette City and It Ain't Easy, are still great songs. 10 out of 10 album. There's a reason it's considered one of the greatest albums ever made. I just prefer the two above it more, but that doesn't mean I don't love this record too. And I love the cover as well.
My number three. Hold on.
Scary Monsters.
Scary Monsters and Super Creeps. It's weird because for most of my favorite albums from an artist, those albums all incorporate the reasons why I love the artist together and perfectly. And I could say the same about this. It's just always a little weird because the two ones I like more, you can probably picture which two ones they are now, Matt, if you've been paying attention. Don't say it out loud.
I
Think
won't.
it.
I won't.
Um, Everything I like about Bowie is in this album, and I think he did a great job. Oddly enough, before going turning pop, of taking everything he did before and mushing it into one album. You hear the aspects of glam, you hear the aspects of the Berlin trilogy, you even hear a little bit of soul in this one. And it's just a great sounding record. It kind of caught me off guard first listen because this one took a while to grow on me.
Me as well.
But it sounds so unique, sounds so great. It has great songwriting, it has great hooks. It's a weird sounding record, but it's incredible. I love the opener. It's No Game Part One.
Great opener.
Think that's the one that caught me off guard, and that's why it kind of took a bit for it to grow on me. But I love the title track, and then you have the standout track, Ashes to Ashes. Great hooks on that one. Very funky song. Ashes to ashes, funk to funky. I love the little return or little nod to Major Tom.
And his
Fashion is groovy as hell. You kind of hear that Talking Heads like S kind of sound, the new wave influence on him. Um, Scream Like a Baby has a great vocal performance and a great hook by him. Scream like a baby. Kingdom Come is great. Um, my
that's
two highlights though are Teenage Wildlife, which I think has an incredible vocal performance, and Because We're Young, or Because You're Young, another great vocal performance, great hook. This album is very weird because it's almost disjointed with its sound, but it's also very together.
hmm
And I prefer this album along with the next one I'm talking about, and even the one after that, as a pure album. I can listen to this one beginning to end and greatly enjoy it. It's a very unique sounding record. I can't really describe the sound of it because it's just
all over the shop.
it's really
Um,
hard to describe the sound of it.
Kingdom Come, that was written by Tom Verlaine, right? That's a cover of like a television. I don't know if it's television, but it's Tom Verlaine. One of them was written by Tom Verlaine.
I think so, yeah.
'Cause I know you mentioned you like television, right?
I love television.
You had told me that earlier, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I can't really describe this album. It's just a unique sounding record of pulling all the sounds that he made before and putting it all together. Then of course he goes pop after it, but
Well, and again, when you know the context, you know why he went pop because he had this huge contract he signed. He wanted to make as much money as possible, and I can't really blame him because Tony DeFries took half his money. I don't know if there's a quote he actually said it, but there's a quote that's attributed that he told someone who was like they asked him how do you get into the like what's the first thing you would tell a young musician? Don't get a manager, get a lawyer, which sounds like something he would have said.
Matt, number two. What's your number two favorite Bowie album?
Number two and one are very interchangeable for me. Hunky Dory right now. I love this record. I think it is a great singer-songwriter record. I think that Honestly, not a bad song on there for me. I think it has some of Bowie's strongest songwriting. Obviously, Changes. The sax is great. One of his best songs. One of the best songs. Period. Turn and Face the Strange. Ch Changes. A great hook. Oh, You Pretty Things. It's one of those songs that I love. That first of all, I love it because you can hear Bowie's intelligence and like his talking about like Burroughs and Nietzsche or Nietzsche, however you say that guy's name. Um, but also too, I love how it's such an upbeat sounding song with such like, very like dark lyrics. It's like these people are coming, they're taking the world over. But hey, look, oh, you pretty thing. Like you can sing it along in the car. A-line poem is probably, or no, yeah, no, A-line poem is next. That's probably the weakest for me, but I do think it's a really good use of like Bowie's cut up style of lyrics that he became known for. Life on Mars is just a gorgeous fucking song. The strings that Mick Ronson did on that are amazing. Actually, it was a rewrite of My Way. I'm sure you know that. Bowie had originally been asked to write the English lyrics to what would become My Way, and they didn't use them. They used Paul Anka's lyrics. So he kind of took the chord progression. He said he went out for a pair of shoes and came back with Life on Mars. Don't know what was going on that trip, but it's amazing. And I think the imagery in that song is just amazing. Like it's such a kaleidoscope of surrealism, sailors fighting in the dance hall. Take a look at the lawman beating up the wrong guy. It's just a gorgeous song. Kooks, very cute song for little Zoe, also Duncan. Very, very sweet song. Quicksand, I really like. Again, kind of a good use of the cut up lyrics. The twisted name on Garbo's eyes, bullshit fate, great lyrics in there. Flip it over to Fill Your Heart. I think for a lot of people, that's their weakest song. I actually quite like it. I think it's really charming. So that was a Biff Rose song that was actually covered by, was originally done by Tiny Tim. And I don't think you're a big Tiny Tim fan, right, Riley? Not at all. I like some of his stuff is kind of cool, but yeah, that's what that is. And then of course that segues directly into Andy Warhol, which I really like that song too. It's very folky. And I kind of like that little opening thing where he's like, it's Warhol actually. And I just like Andy Warhol looks a scream. Great hook. A song for Bob Dylan, brilliantly written song. I think my favorite lyric in there is then we lost our train of thought. Your paintings were all your own. While troubles are rising, we'd rather be scared together than alone. Always gives me chills. I also love his description of Dylan's voice, a voice like sand and glue. I use that one a lot because I think that's totally right.
Yeah.
Queen Bitch obviously has the great Velvet Underground influence in there. Like I said, it's kind of like the seeds are being planted for Ziggy Stardust, and also the lyric "Pushing Ahead of the Dame." That's actually the name of a really cool blog that goes into a lot of Bowie songs. And then you have Bewley Brothers, which I think is a very haunting piece. I love the vocal effects on it, and then it's one of those songs that's very kind of like oblique, but then when you read about his brother that had schizophrenia and was institutionalized and later committed suicide, it makes a lot more sense. But I love Hunky Dory. Not a bad song on there for me. An album I could listen to from start to finish. And it's one of those albums that I think I appreciate more as time goes on, just because of how brilliant the songwriting is. And I love the cover too.
These next two are very interchangeable, and I mean very, very interchangeable.
Hmm.
Um, I could put either one at number one. It's just whatever one I'm feeling. But I'll go with how I felt in 2022 when I got into Bowie.
Hmm.
Time flies. My number two is Station to Station. Of course, you know which one's number one now, but number two is Station to Station. I got two words for you. Holy shit.
Great album.
Um, this one was a grower, but it was a quick grower because I listened to it the first time and I was left more confused than entertained. The best way probably could describe it is industrial funk.
Yeah, pretty much.
Um,
A little bit of
but
craft.
after my first listen, I was left more confused. So I was like, well, let me listen to this again another time. So I did. A little less confused, starting to grow, and this happened in like the span of a week. By the end of the week, I'm like, holy shit, this is incredible.
Hmm.
That opening track, man, it's kind of sums up the album in one song, honestly. You have the slow droning intro.
Yeah, it sounds like a
You have
satellite.
the guitar riff, the down, 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 and then you have the that song is super badass. Is the best way to describe it. And then out of truly left field, you have the once there were mountains and mountains, and then that killer hook. It's too late,
To
too
be
late,
grateful.
oh.
Too late to be.
Almost as if that one little part of that song was being built up to, and it makes that first 7 minutes worth it.
You know
And then
what
those
sucks
7 minutes grow on you too. What?
You know what sucks? The 45 cuts it right, starts at once there were mountains. I know it ruins the song.
I mean, when I first really got into the song, I used to skip to that part, and then I stopped. And it's just one of my favorite like 10-minute songs of all time.
Great song.
Uh, and then of course, we have the other five tracks. Golden Years is so fucking funky. I love the guitar riff. Shout out, I think this was Carlos Alomar. Was he still with them?
This might have been Earl Slick, actually. Let
Yeah,
me see.
actually, I think you're right. I think it's Earl Slick. Whoever's on guitar on Golden Years,
It is
fucking.
okay, so it's actually both. It's both Carlos Alomar and Earl Slick.
But Golden Years, great guitar on it. Great vocal performance. It's pretty like high tempo song on it. I mean, not like high tempo is I guess the wrong word. It's just like it has that groove to it.
He
I
wrote it
love
in
the
the style of Elvis. So
and it's like listen to those golden years down on it. Down. I love that song. Word on a Wing slows down the pace a little bit. But I think it's a great Bowie performance.
great vocal.
One of his better ballads, maybe his best ballad. Um, and then out of left field again, you have TBC 15, which is way better than it has any right being. It's like so groovy, and I didn't know a song kind of basically about like a freaking robot or a TV and like being in love with a TV.
Yeah, it's basically it was inspired by Iggy Pop, who had a drug-induced nervous breakdown and thought the TV had ate his girlfriend.
Way better song than it has any right being.
It does.
Uh, I'm curious if it influenced Frank Zappa with his song, his like with Joe's Garage. And there's one part in either Act 2 or 3 of Joe's Garage where Joe falls in love with a sex robot.
Possibly, I don't know. Uh, Zappa was an odd one, but I will say there's definitely a lot of Kraftwerky influence throughout this whole album. You can hear for sure.
But TBC 15, it's a great song. All of these songs, especially the higher tempo ones, are so funky and soulful, but they also have that little like you said, Kraftwerk influence. It takes the album before and the album after and pushes them together. And
Yep.
it's a great for what is I guess could be considered a transitional album for Bowie, is one of his best, maybe his best.
Yeah, honestly, if you said this was his best, I would not disagree with that. It is a damn good
Yeah,
record.
Stay, incredible guitar on that one.
Great
It's
guitar.
kind of like Golden Years Part Two, but it like does not take away from its quality. I might like it better than Golden Years. It's again either in the way. And Wild as the Wind is an incredible cover, one of Bowie's most soulful, heartfelt vocals. And like
Yeah.
you said before, Matt, well, first of all, like I said with Scary Monsters, I can't really define the sound of this album. You just have to listen to it for yourself. It is very much a grower. But holy shit are the two words I can use to describe it because
Especially because it's only 6 songs long. And it's
right.
just like the amount of stuff that's packed into those 6 songs is incredible. But I
There,
could
there,
see some people struggling with this album if you don't really like longer songs. But I don't have a problem with it at all.
here's the thing, I will listen to one song, it'll randomly pop up on one of my playlists when I'm driving. And after listening to that one song, like say I'm listening to Golden Years, I'm expecting Word on the Wing to come on immediately after. And if it doesn't, there are times where I will go back, tap on station to station, just listen to the whole album all the way through. It's holy shit, I love it.
I actually would love more artists to do albums like Station to Station in the sense that not just like not so much the styles, but just like make a 37-minute long album, but only do 6 songs. I think that would be interesting.
Hey, you would love Pink Floyd.
Yeah, I probably would like Pink Floyd. I mean, I like I said, I my whole thing with long songs, I don't mind long songs if they're interesting. If it's like the same thing for 9, 10 minutes and not a whole lot's going on, yeah, I get bored. But like a song like Station to Station has so much packed into 10 minutes. How can you be bored?
Number one, Matt, what's your number one favorite Bowie album?
Low, which anybody who's watched our top 10 albums probably knows this. I love everything about it. I love the cover. I love the title. I love the lyrics that are all cut up, kind of represents his state of mind at the time. He was recovering from cocaine. I actually like the instrumentals, I think, a lot more than you do, Riley. Wasawa obviously is great. I really like Weeping Wall though, and Art Decade as well. But the one that I really want to highlight is Subterraneans. I think that song, to me, and I've said it before, but it sounds like You Are Behind the Iron Curtain in the 1970s.
Well, I mean, I guess the same could be said because the way you feel about Subterraneans is the way I feel about Warsaw.
Yeah, no, I love Warsaw.
Once you said that Warsaw is like, I know he said about Subterraneans, but low-key, kind of feel like I'm behind the Iron Curtain when I was listening to Warsaw.
I'm low key, absolutely. I think the entire side B honestly sounds like that, just because like of where he was at the time when he was recording it and like living there at the time in Berlin, which I actually don't think most of this album was recorded in Berlin. I think it was mostly recorded in France, but I know he had relocated to Berlin to get off cocaine. But I would say with Subterranean, it's just like the it has a little bit of the sax and like and then like the like those like kind of like those oblique lyrics like share bright failing star riding me Shirley Om. It's just so haunting and droning and it's just beautiful. And obviously I love all the tracks on there. Not a bad song on here for me. I think Breaking Glass is really special. I know that one took a while for you. Sound of Vision's great. Always crashing in the same car is probably the best metaphor I've ever heard for making the same mistakes over and over and over. I use it all the damn time. Going back to Breaking Glass for a minute, you're such a wonderful person, but you got problems. Love that lyric. And I want to say too, I know you said what in the world. One thing I love about what in the world is that intro that almost sounds like Pac-Man. It's like that. Love that. Great production. Tony Visconti did an amazing job with running everything through the Eventide harmonizer for the drums, and of course Brian Eno's influence is all over the record too. And Brian Eno is one of basically the pioneers of ambient music, so that's awesome that he's on the record. I love this album. I absolutely adore this album. And I think it's an album that for me, I always really liked. I know some people it was kind of a grower for them, but I always just really, really liked it. And I like that it's another complete left turn from station to station. It's a great record.
I had to for number one. It's kind of the standard, but as with even more so than Pet Sounds, honestly, for me. Ziggy Stardust.
And that's
It's
I love Ziggy Stardust.
Ziggy Stardust is the only 10 out of 10 album to have two 7 out of 10 songs for me.
Let me guess. It Ain't Easy and I don't know the other one. I'm guessing It Ain't Easy is one.
It ain't easy, and hang on to yourself.
Okay. I was gonna say either Hang On to Yourself or Suffragette City.
Oh no, no, I love Suffragette City.
Yeah, because to me that's one of the weaker ones for me is Suffragette City, but yeah, different strokes.
But while in some cases a 7 out of 10 song will put an album down for me, it just doesn't here for whatever reason it doesn't. I can't listen to the album and not listen to those two songs. It's weird that I'm starting my little album review with those two songs, but I can't. They're just part of the album and they're almost boosted by the great material on here. The number one thing I like about this album, besides the incredible songwriting, is just the flow. The flow of the album is incredible. The opener 5 years would not sit right with me if it was three songs in.
I
The
have to.
closer, Rock and Roll Suicide, wouldn't make sense if it was the sixth song on the album. The flow of it's incredible. Lady Stardust is a great middle track.
I
Is
love
kind of
that song.
like it's almost like a little like mid-tro in a theatrical production.
Well, on the vinyl, it's the opener to side B, so it fits well there. I know if you're listening on digital, it's right in the
Well, I mean
middle.
that's how I was introduced to it.
Yeah,
But it's kind of like an act two of a play when
it
you're
is.
watching a play, and act two it opens up with just like the spotlight on somebody with a piano or like one person performing. I love the little thing at the end where he's like, "Get some pussy now."
I just love some of the lyrics in that one though, especially like the like ooh how I sighed when they asked if I knew his name, and also like the I smiled sadly for a love I could not obey. It's just like that queer subtext to the song just makes it that much better for me.
5 years though, it might be the greatest opening track to an album of all time.
Yeah,
And it only really, I mean, not that I can listen to it on its own, but it almost only works as an opener. Um,
Aiden and
it makes it way better as an opener. It's hard to listen to randomly. Soul Love, in a similar way, I can only see this as track two. I can't see it anywhere else. I can listen to this one on its own, but I can't see it else as other than track two. I love the drums on it. It's like
drums are great.
it's a little
Little
groovy
sax
beat.
is great too.
And I love the little sax solo on it. The doo, 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 doo. Oh, like that song is incredible. Moon Age Daydream, again, I can only see it as like the third track, third part of the little play you have going on, even though I don't think there's really a cohesive story at all.
Yeah, not really. I think there's some songs I can hear it like on Ziggy.
It's like Sergeant Pepper's. It's a half-baked concept album,
I think
but
this
it
works
doesn't
a
make
lot.
it any worse.
I think this works a lot better than so. I like this a lot better than Sergeant Pepper's.
I do too. And this is where I want to shout out Mick Ronson. There is a performance of Moon Age Daydream from the live album. And then the intro's a little different because Bowie's like, I'm an alligator.
Yeah. Boom. I'm a mama, papa coming for you. Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. I've listened to that hundreds of
I
times.
think I almost prefer it to the raunchy guitar intro on the album. And then the guitar solo, Mick Ronson
Kills it.
fucking rips on that live version. It's one of my favorite guitar solos of all time, especially on that one. And then Starman, like you said,
Classic.
thank God for the record companies. That is one of Bowie's best songs. I think he knew he was writing a hit with that one. It's one of the greatest, I guess, rock anthems of all time. It's up there with "Don't Look Back in Anger" and "Hey Jude" as one of the greats.
Don't you mean look back in it? Oh, don't look back in it. No, you're right.
"Don't Look Back in Anger" by Oasis. Yes,
Wait.
I said it here. "Don't Look Back in Anger" is one of the greatest rock anthems of all time.
I was gonna say
Uh,
Wonderwall. That's a great song too,
no,
though.
"Don't Look Back in Anger" is one of the greatest rock anthems of all time. It has that sing along chorus to it, and same with Starman has that sing along chorus. I could see I've played the song at camp before. I think it's either this one or is another song. Regardless, I think it was a Bowie song, and I just remember everybody singing because everybody knows it, and everybody's singing with you. It's one of those songs you can like, just like Bowie did in the live performance. You have your friend's arms around you, and you're like rocking back and forth, and you're singing. It's great, one of the great rock anthems, and it's a really well structured song too. Chord progressions are nuts on that one. It Ain't Easy is one of the best 7 out of 10 songs I've ever heard. And maybe it's just because it works really well in the concept of the album. Lady Stardust, I already talked about. Great piano piece. Star is honestly, I think it's really underrated. I really like
It
that
is.
one. Hang On to Yourself, very big influence on punk. Um, I'm pretty sure Steve Jones mentioned that as one of his favorite songs off on this album because
Sex
Steve
Pistols.
Jones of the Sex Pistols was a massive Bowie fan. Ziggy Stardust is a incredible track, just incredible. Suffragette City, that is also a punk influenced song, or I guess it influenced punk. I love that one though. Man on me, man. I love that, and I love the little fake out at the end too.
Bam, bam. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, pretty sure Futurama used that or quoted that like about 5 times in the show.
I have not watched that show in years. I gotta watch.
I love Futurama. They have a lot of great references.
I haven't. Yeah, I haven't seen. I think I haven't watched Futurama since it left Adult Swim, so that's like 15 years.
It's worth a rewatch, dude.
Yeah.
Watch it all the way. Regardless, Rock and Roll Suicide. Holy shit. That's an incredible closer. Especially the live version, but honestly, the album version is also great. That's as 5 Years is one of the greatest album openers of all time. Rock and Roll Suicide is one of the greatest album closers of all time. And even though I would say Station to Station is a more cohesive and I guess better, I guess, album listen, and I guess in that sense, this is just a better album. It's just I don't know. There's a reason why they're one and two, and like they go back and forth.
Yeah.
But I see this one as like a theatrical play because when I'm listening to the music, I always have a visual in my mind of what's happening with this.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense because Bowie always saw himself as a bit of an actor. Like, I don't know if you've ever looked at the liner notes to or the credits to a Hunky Dory. It says like produced by Ken Scott, assisted by the actor. That's David Bowie. Diamond Dogs. It was based off of 1984, the George Orwell film or the book, and so he kind of saw that as like that was he was going to make that into a play, and that was like his whole concept. And then of course I know Lazarus was a musical that he did before he died and used some songs from Black Star and throughout his career. So I think there's always that element of theatricality
It,
in Bowie's
that's the
work.
best way to describe it. It's a theatrical album, and I
Mhm.
love it.
Yeah, it's a great album. It is. I like Low and Hunky Dory better, but I can't blame people for saying that this is the best Bowie album. It's an amazing record and also very highly influential too.
We are gonna start our little, I guess, quote unquote, greatest hits of Bowie. It's gonna be 20 songs. All right, let's start off disc one, track one.
Space
Matt,
Oddity has to be.
no,
I,
nothing from David Bowie.
nothing else. Nothing else. The early stuff, there's some okay stuff in there, but this is really where Bowie starts.
Yeah. I'm gonna go Wild Eyed Boy from Free Cloud. This might waste space for Matt, but I think it's just one of his better in songs, and the fact that he wrote this on guitar is pretty impressive because it sounds like it would have been written on keyboard or piano. I love little, like I said, the descending riff. And I just like Bowie's voice through it. It's a very tender song. It's a very charming song. So Wild Eyed Boy from Free Cloud.
I'm gonna go with next, The Man Who Sold the World. I think that it's an amazing track. Got a great haunting vocal. It's got very cool lyrics. And since most people know the Nirvana one, why don't we throw the Bowie one on there?
Fuck yeah. Man Who Sold the World.
Yep.
This is tough. Should I go straight into Hunky Dory or?
You. I mean, we only have 20 track. We only have 20 tracks to work with, so
Yeah, and I had
you
I'll go
already.
to Dory. I'll say Changes. You can't go wrong with this one. Just one of the all-time great piano songs, I guess. Singer-songwriter songs. Changes.
And I'm gonna go with another one from Hunky Dory, "Life on Mars." One of his best songs. Beautifully great kaleidoscopic lyrics. The strings from Mick Ronson are out of this world, and it's just an awesome vocal too. It's just such a great song.
Well, I'm gonna stick with Hunky Dory, Matt, and I'm gonna say "Oh You Pretty Thing" or "Oh You Pretty Things."
I mean, I love that song, but I wasn't even gonna think about putting that on there. Just trying to save some space.
Yeah, but you know what? This is probably my favorite song from Hunky Dory. I really love the hook on it. It's "Oh You Pretty Thing." Oh,
Honestly,
yeah.
this one clicked for me faster than Life on Mars did. Life on Mars took a few listens to really click out with me.
Yeah. All right. So Matt,
I'm gonna jump
pick.
to Ziggy Stardust, Moon Age Daydream. I think Mick Ronson's guitar riff is out of this world. I think Bowie's vocal is great on it. I love the lyrics too, and I think that this is just a great representation of the glam period.
It is. I'm gonna say Starman. It's an easy one to pick, but it's one of those songs that are as good as people say it is. And like I said before, it's one of those great anthems that you can sing with your friends, or it's just a great song.
I'm gonna jump to Aladdin Sane, Drive-In Saturday. I think that it, like you said it best, it's like Bowie does Americana well. It's like that 50s, it's that 50s doo-wop meets space age funk glam meets like lyrics about people that don't know how to have sex, so we gotta watch porn to do it. I mean, only Bowie could dream up something like that and make it sound as good as it is.
Yeah. All right, and I'm gonna close out. I guess this is a bit more of a deep cut. It's crazy. We have more songs from Monkey Dory than we do Ziggy, but I'm gonna close out with Cracked Actor because it shows you what's gonna happen next. But it's also just a ripping song. I love the guitar on it. It's super heavy. I love just how like sexual it is. It's like in your face. And yeah, yeah. I love it.
I'm gonna pick one more from Aladdin's. How many are we at now?
We are at 10, so I guess we're kind of on disc two, second half.
Okay, so I'm gonna just pick one last one from Aladdin saying the Gene Genie. I think it just has to be there. It's one of his best songs, and I think it has a great guitar riff and everything, and it's just a great track.
All right. So that's the opener to disc two, Gene Genie. And actually, why don't we switch it around? Let's make Gene Genie the closer to side or disc one.
Yeah, that's fine.
Cracked Actor as great opener to Bowie's cocaine period. I it do I want to do Rebel Rebel or should I skip straight to Station to Station?
I think we need Rebel Rebel on there. I mean, that's his
Yeah,
most.
let's do Rebel Rebel just to get some more glam representation.
That's
And
like the kiss off to the glam period,
yeah.
and
All
then Young Americans has to be on there. Has to be on there. That's one of his best songs. Has to absolutely be on there for not only like just like the great sax work, the great funkiness of it, but just the lyrics, man. And it has to be the full 5 minute version, no single edit.
We're not doing single edits here. We don't mess with that. With Bowie, no way.
No way. I would actually, honestly, you might disagree with this, but I read on the Steve Hoffman forums once that they felt that Let's Dance was better as the single edit because it was tighter.
It is a bit tighter, but like I said, I can listen to Let's Dance and not notice the fact that it's like almost 8 minutes.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. But I know like Station to Station is a terrible single edit. Heroes is a terrible single edit.
Uh, so speaking of Station to Station, I'm gonna go no title track. I mean, I could, but if we're doing like a greatest hits career spanning, I'm gonna go Golden Years.
Okay.
Kind of keeps the flow of Young Americans with the Blue-Eyed Soul, but it also kind of updates a little bit to make it a little bit heavier. So I'm gonna go Golden Years.
Okay. How many is that?
We are at 13, 14. So we have six more songs.
I'm gonna jump ahead to low. Sound and Vision, great song. The fake out is great, and as I said before, the most upbeat song you will ever hear about crippling depression in your life.
Yeah. Ooh, seeing that we have five songs left, I guess I have to skip a bit to Heroes, and I'll go with the title track, Heroes. One of the, if Starman's one of the great anthems, Heroes is one of the great ballads. It's just incredible song. The fact that he came up with the lyrics in such a short span of time are incredible. And there's not really, I heard there's no real like story behind it. Like I heard there's not really any like, what is the song about? It's go, people have said it's like, oh, two people drinking in a bar, or and like saying they could be heroes, it could be something crazy. But
I
I
always
guess
thought it was about forbidden love myself.
that's what I mean though. There's no meaning to it's whatever meaning it applies to you.
Well, I will say the worst interpretation I've ever seen of the song was on the UK X Factor, and this was the season that One Direction was on, and they used the song to raise money for veterans or for like people at war. I'm like, that is not what the song is about. At least to me, it's not. That's not what the song is about.
All right, Matt, we have four slots left. What do
um,
we think?
skip ahead to Scary Monsters, Ashes to Ashes,
Yep.
for reasons we've stated before.
I'm gonna stick with Scary Monsters and I'm gonna go with Teenage Wildlife. I think that's just a beautiful song. It's just I love the way he just screams that chorus. Bowie had a great scream because it wasn't like raspy. It was majestic. It was like solid voice. I'm gonna
Yeah,
go
he
with
could
Steve.
project very well. Um, I'm gonna skip ahead
Two
to
slots left, Matt.
Let's Dance. Just put the title track on there. It was his biggest hit for a reason. It's a great song
All right.
on there.
And we're gonna end with Let's Dance because I'm gonna pick Modern Love. I That's one of my favorite Bowie songs, period. And even though we only went up to 83, you know what? I'm gonna put Modern Love and I'm gonna take one for the team and remove Wild Eyed Boy from Free Cloud so we have one slot left.
I'd put Fame then in the missing slot. It had the other number one hit. Put it after Young Americans.
Yeah. You don't want to do anything from Lazarus, or not Lazarus, Black Star, nothing from the
I
next
mean,
day.
I think that, I think obviously Bowie had some great later day stuff, but since we're kind of focusing on the early period, I think this is a good primer to get people into Bowie. Bowie's so tough because there's so much good stuff.
I think we can probably book it off at 83. Um we only have two songs to represent the Berlin trilogy. Uh
I feel like the problem though is that a lot of those songs fit better in the context of the record.
that's true. We did pick the two singles.
The two big singles, yeah. They want to pick something from Lodger if you want to. Boys Keep Swinging or whatever. I don't know.
Ooh, that's tough. I'm doing a little skim through my Bowie playlist. What would be a good song to give people? Let's do let's add one from station to station. Let's do TVC 15.
That's a good one.
It shows Bowie's, I guess, humor, and it is a banger, and it way better than As Any Right Being, and it also kind of goes to show where Bowie's head was at during that time period. So
So even though we cut it off at 83, we hope you enjoyed this playlist.
yeah, so I'll just read it off. Even it's more of a playlist rather than I guess like a record or like, but it is our collection of greatest hits. Starting off disc one, I guess. First half, Space Oddity, Man Who Sold the World, Changes, Oh You Pretty Things, Life on Mars, Moon Age Daydream, Starman, Drive-In Saturday, Gene Genie, and Correct Actor. Part two, or I guess side two, or disc two, or however you want to look at it, starts off Rebel Rebel, Young Americans, Golden Years, TVC 15, Sound and Vision, Heroes, Ashes to Ashes, Teenage Wildlife, Let's Dance, and Modern Love. And I think we did a good job. This is a great playlist to kind of show people who want to get into like the many different sounds of Bowie.
Yeah, I think the only thing that for me I think it's missing is the other number one hit Fame. But you got some other funky stuff on there, so I don't think we're missing too much out.
No, and truth be told, I mean, if they're watching this video, we've talked about a shit ton of songs.
Yeah, we got lots of songs for everybody to listen to if you've been watching. So go check some of it out.
But I enjoyed talking about it. I mean, I think some of the later period albums that we kind of skimmed over, because I feel like we kind of generally like the same albums talked about. I don't think there's anything minus Bowie 69. I don't think we had a lot of like dive we didn't not diversity, like disparity between our lists.
No, I think from some stuff, I think maybe the only big one was I had Bowie 69 quite a bit lower than you.
Yeah, and I had Black Star a little bit lower, but like
Yeah, and I understand your reasoning behind having Black Star a bit lower because it is a super heavy listen.
yeah, and not in my usual heavy listening, I guess, style. It's just sad. But I guess something with Bowie is like even when you don't like some of his albums or like you don't like him as much as other people, you still appreciate them. I mean,
Oh
this is
yeah.
a guy whose career he is arguably the greatest solo artist of all time.
Yeah. I mean, you could
I
definitely
can't
make
think of anybody else that even reaches his heights. But like Billy Joel is great, but like I still kind of view him as a greatest hits artist. Like maybe like a two disc greatest hits artist, but
Yeah,
still
I
like
think you could maybe make a case for like Prince being up there too.
right. But like Bowie just the one thing like I said before, Bowie had diversity in his sound. He always changed. He never settled for one sound his whole career. And that's what takes like a good artist to become a great artist is when they can shift styles and still be great.
And especially because he kept doing it into his 40s and 50s and 60s. A lot of artists by that point in time, they're going to just settle into it. They're going to just be making the same record over and over again. Some artists made the same record over and over again their entire career. I've heard that about AC/DC.
Oh, yeah, they definitely did.
Maybe the Foo Fighters too. You could say that about. At least
Yeah, but the Foo Fighters didn't even make a good one, so it's like,
some people would argue Color and Shape is pretty good. You're
er,
not one of those people, so I
yeah.
get.
Any closing remarks, Matt?
I would just say I had a really fun time doing this with you, Riley, and I hope our listeners will find some new stuff to listen to in case you haven't deep dived into Bowie. There's definitely a lot there. It could definitely be a bit overwhelming, but there is so much great stuff. And like Riley said, even the stuff that maybe isn't like totally to your taste, I think there's still a lot you can appreciate about it.
There's something for everybody with Bowie. I think everybody on this planet at least likes one Bowie song, whether they know it or not.
I would say that as well.
All right. Thanks for watching, guys. Second official channel exclusive Off Timin. Make sure you give a listen to our main podcast if you haven't. And if you're not a Beach Boys fan, consider subbing to this channel because we are going to be doing way more than the Beach Boys over here. In fact, I don't think we are going to talk about the Beach Boys at all over
Other
here.
than maybe we just mentioned them, but we're not going to do any
Well,
video.
we'll mention them. We are big Beach Boys fans, but I like doing this, I guess, show because it gives us something else to talk about than the Beach Boys. Um, and yeah, I think next time we are together is either going to be ABBA or Oasis, kind of continuing with the Blur episode. Um, but expect something fun, and if you give us enough time, there's a good chance we'll get to your favorite artist. All right, see you guys.